Meeting this evening. Welcome to the Township Board meeting this evening. We are about to begin. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah.
Thank you. Keep in mind, this is a public meeting of the Township Board. You are all invited to be here. You are all invited to speak as an item comes before the board. Do not speak otherwise. You have an item at the end of the meeting where you can have a public comment card filled out, and you can speak on any topic you want for 3 minutes without interruption, usually. Anyway, with that, I'm going to start with Mrs. Meltzer. You have a public service announcement?
Thank you, Supervisor Cannon. Yes. I'm glad to see there's so many people here. I'm hoping that as a result of that, we will get an audience when we host our public accuracy test October 11th at 10 a.m. Here in the clerk's office. If we do have a big crowd, we might move it to room 200 or possibly in here. But it's something that the public has expressed a big concern over about the authenticity, the accuracy of our tabulators, and yet every time I host a public accuracy test prior to the election, which actually proves and tests the tabulators, I guess you probably could guess, but in case you can't, 0 people show up, not one. So I am really looking forward to the public coming to the public accuracy test, doing their due diligence, and learning about exactly how secure elections here in Clinton Township actually are. I also want to announce that ballots were mailed out Thursday. That was September 26th. We mailed out, my staff did a phenomenal job preparing 21,600 plus ballots for our initial bulk mailing. Of course, we'll have a lot more than that as the election proceeds. Please allow 10 days to receive those ballots. If you have not received them, many of you probably already have, but if you have not received them, give it at least 10 days. The United States Postal Service has asked that it can take up to 10 days to receive your ballot. And then please utilize one of our 6 ballot drop box locations, which includes one here on the Civic Center grounds, or you can actually bring it into our office, as opposed to mailing it, just in case the mail system doesn't deliver it back to us in time. So we'd really like for you to utilize those, any one of the 6 ballot drop boxes that we have. And you can find that location on our website at clintontownship.com, early voting, just clintontownship.com, and then there'll be precinct locations for the ballot boxes as well as your voting locations. Also, I wanted to let you know that we do offer early voting here in Clinton Township per state mandate. And that starts for us 9 days, October 26th to November 3rd. That'll be 8 hours per day. 4 of those 9 days are a Saturday or a Sunday, which means there should be no reason you can't come out and vote. And the nice thing about early voting is you could actually take your absentee ballot or come in and get a new ballot and put it in the tabulator, just like you would on election day. And that's true across the state. So there's a lot of people in the audience. I'm not sure if you're all from Clinton Township, but even in your own community, if it's other than Clinton Township, you can participate in early voting. And that means you have control of your ballot. You vote it at that location, a voting location, and then you place it into the tabulator. So that's a great addition to the election law that was put in place in 2022. And then if you want more information for early voting, please go to Clinton Township Early Voting. And is that mine or somebody else's? Okay, must have been somebody. Sorry, all the ringers sound the same. And Mr. Cannon, I want to thank you for allowing me to give that public.
Certainly, right now, this is a very important topic. We have one other topic in Clinton Township that comes to the forefront. Mrs. Bednar, you want to talk about chipping briefly?
Yes, real briefly. We would like to advise everyone that today is officially the last day of the 2024 Township Seasonal Chipping Service. Our township staff will start tomorrow with chipping and clearing streets. After your street has been cleared and the branches are chipped, we will not be returning to your street this year. But a reminder that Priority will be continuing their composting service through the middle of December.
Thank you very much. Now, roll call, please.
Trustee Matuzak.
Present.
Trustee Keys.
Here.
Trustee Patton.
Here.
Supervisor Cannon.
Here.
Trustee Kress.
Present.
Treasurer Gilliam.
Here.
Clerk Meltzer. Here.
Thank you. Is there an approval of the agenda?
Wait a
So moved.
wait,
Thank you. Is there a second?
wait a second. I want to make sure.
Supported by Mrs. Patton.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Mr. Keys made the motion, supported by
Well,
Mrs.
that's- I
Patton.
want to make sure that's on there. Was item 6 deleted? Yes, that's with item 6 being deleted.
It's been deleted, yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay, Trustee Keys.
Yes.
Trustee Patton.
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak.
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon.
Yes.
Trustee Kress.
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam.
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. So we go to the consent agenda. Any concerns?
I move adoption of the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Patton. Roll call, please.
Trustee Matuzak.
Yes.
Trustee Patton.
Yes.
Trustee Keys.
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon.
Yes.
Trustee Kress.
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam.
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 2, Fire Safety Week proclamation from our fire chief.
Okay, whereas, I will read the proclamation because it's very nice. The Charter Township of Clinton is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our township. Whereas fire is a serious public health concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at the greatest risk from fire. Whereas home fires killed more than 2,700 people in the United States in 2022, according to the National Fire Association, and fire departments in the United States responded to 360,000 home fires. Whereas roughly 3 out of 5 fire deaths happen in homes with either no smoke alarms or with no working smoke alarms. Whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires almost in half. Whereas smoke alarms sense smoke well before you can, alerting you to danger in the event of fire in which you may have as little as 2 minutes to escape safely. Whereas Clinton Township residents should install smoke alarms in every sleeping room, outside each separate sleeping area, and on every level of the home. Whereas Clinton Township residents will make sure that their smoke alarms meet the needs of all their family members, including those with sensory or physical disabilities. Whereas Clinton Township residents should test smoke alarms at least once a month. Whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. Whereas Clinton Township's first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. Whereas Clinton Township residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. Whereas the 2024 Fire Prevention Week theme Smoke Alarms Make Them Work For You serves to remind us the importance of having working smoke alarms in the home. Therefore, Supervisor Cannon of Clinton Township does, as well as this board does, hereby proclaim October 6, 2012 October 6th to the 12th of 2024 as Fire Prevention Week throughout the township, and urges all the people of Clinton Township to make sure their homes have working smoke alarms and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of the Clinton Township Fire and Emergency Services.
Thank you.
Is this a receive and file? I support.
To adopt.
Thank you.
Adopt.
To adopt a resolution?
Yep.
Support.
Comments? Roll call, please.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 3, introduction of Township Ordinance 494, school fighting.
Mr. Cannon, I think our attorney is best prepared to speak to this.
Thank you. Mr. Dolan?
Mr. Cannon, this is in response to requests that have come from our police department. This ordinance is strongly recommended by our police chief and by our police administration and our line officers. The intent of this ordinance is to create a civil infraction enforceable at the district court level that would be available as a tool in the toolkit, so to speak, for the police in responding to incidents involving fighting in schools, which we've seen an increase in. It allows violations to issue, and from those violations, penalties can be imposed, which include fines and also different levels of education and community service. The idea here is to have an effective tool to deter some of these incidents of fighting that have occurred and provide some sort of penalty associated not just with a pure criminal act of assault, but with actually participating in and encouraging or partaking in a fight at a lesser level. So we're introducing it at this meeting with the intent to adopt it the next regular board meeting.
Thank you. Comments? Community? A motion is in order?
Again, you have someone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't see you. I'm sorry.
I make a motion to accept it.
Township Board, my name is Fred Neenstead. I've seen this type of an ordinance attempted in other communities, and I have attended and investigated some aspects of it. Will the opportunity for a citation that is issued, I presume, to the parents, will it be withdrawn by the school district if there is some level of attention by the parents? In other words, is this just sort of a crack the whip type of exercise that wastes a lot of time within the courts and the police department?
I don't believe so, but I will turn to our attorney because he's the one who's going to have to deal with the courts and anybody else in the courts. As a former teacher, longtime teacher, we want to control what's going on in the schools. And you do too. Everybody
Yes.
does. So it's difficult. Things have changed. When I was a teacher, there were no cell phones.
Yep.
Mr. Dolan?
To sort of emphasize the comments that were made by Supervisor Cannon, what we're really trying to do here is to have something available that actually acts as a deterrent, first of all, that through the enforcement process, this fighting starts to happen more infrequently or not at all. And in part, the difficulty we have is it's difficult to get full accountability now because the criminal charge for this type of activity is an assault and battery. And a lot of times the activity that's occurring that needs to be checked and for which students need to be accountable for is something more in the nature of a civil matter as opposed to a criminal matter. And of course, we also want to make sure that these kids who find themselves in this situation realize that their parents are going to know about this and now they're going to be basically in contact with the justice system.
The schools obviously face a daunting task in maintaining order. So it has to be understood that if the process is begun, that it has to be genuinely followed through, not as a sort of hollow exercise to get attention, get the parents to actually come into the school and address the issue.
I think you're going to hear some people that are going to tell you exactly that. Gentlemen, each of you come up one at a time, please. And tell us who you are.
Hello, my name is Timothy Victor. I'm a detective at Clinton Township Police Department, currently signed out to all Clintondale community schools as a school resource officer. With this proposal, we have many things in place throughout the school right now, and this is Mr. Maurice Woods behind me, the assistant principal for the school. Like you were saying, this isn't about just cracking the whip. So we have things in place such as social workers, behavior coaches. We try every remedial aspect before we want to get to this citation. If we can see a fight happening, we try to sit them down and talk. If we see something else happening, we try to get them in a group. We try to prevent this. So cracking the whip, it's not about cracking the whip. With this citation, there's going to be community service, anger management classes involved. Yes, it will be issued to the student, and there is monetary value to that, but the monetary value can be handled within the courts as well, where the magistrate or judge can wipe the monetary value at any point in time. So we are going through a little bit of statistics here. Last year, I pulled the stats for our fights in school. The high school at Clintondale alone had 31 fights in one school year. The middle school had 63 fights. We only have 300 kids in the high school and 200 and some kids, excuse me, in the middle school. The elementary schools, Robbie Parker had 20 fights. That's a lot for an elementary school. Our SRO in Chippewa, I pulled the stats from him, from their administration. They had 36 fights last year. So fighting is an increasing issue in our schools right now. We're trying everything we can to stop it. Biggest problem is going to be social media, peer pressure. They love social media and peer pressure, whether it's a student or somebody else feeling the fire. So this is a last resort type of deal before we take action.
Sir, you have the floor.
Good evening, and just,
We need to know who you are.
I'm sorry, my name is Maurice Woods. I'm the assistant principal at Clendale High School, and thank you for having me here.
Thank you.
Just to piggyback on Officer Victor here, the district has invested a lot of money in being more restorative instead of punitive. So we're taking steps to not just drop the hammer on people. I mean, we are trying to communicate. We're talking to folks. We have social workers involved. We feel we're taking the necessary steps to try to curb this issue. But right now, we feel a little bit more is needed. And we believe that this measure will help us out a lot here. Because right now, our number one priority is to make sure that the students and staff are safe. Students can learn, staff can educate.
Exactly, thank you.
Mr. I can wait.
Mr. Keys?
Thank you, Mr. Cannon.
Mary.
And thank you to our guests and Mr. Dolan for the description. One of the questions that I have is in the language here, it says your first offense could result in a $100 fine. And then as you just said,
You got the wrong guy at the podium. He doesn't understand how much this is all about.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay. So it says with your first offense, you could be charged with $100. And obviously you had just talked about the court could add things like community service or therapy. You know, you mentioned Robbie Hall Parker. I remember Mike Scoopin was my first fight ever in elementary school. He had made fun of me because my parents were smokers, and it was an all-out brawl. And we, and this is, I'm smiling because, again, this was a learning lesson. This was one time that, this happened. And for me to comprehend a kid now having an interaction with a judge and the courts because of a first offense of a fight in the school, I'm questioning that. And so I guess could you help walk me through, would that not happen in this scenario? Is that exactly what would be happening in this scenario?
What would happen? You mean seeing a judge?
Well, so if I'm a student in an elementary school at Robbie Hall Parker and I get into a fight for the first time, am I going to get this citation and be required to go sit in front of a judge?
Mr. Keys, you're entitled to ask that, but it was all presented to us in paperwork.
But we just heard conflicting information at the podium.
And this is where I spoke on earlier, where we've invested a lot of money in restorative practices, where it isn't necessarily just two kids and they get to pushing each other and boom, here's a $100 fine. I mean, we'll look at the situation as a whole and then make a determination there.
But so the officer could, in the first instance of a child at Robbie Hall Parker getting into a fight with another child, that child now have a record in our court system.
No, and that's part of the reason we want to come out with a civil infraction is because it's not going to be on their record.
Okay.
So right now, if we go through the prosecutor's office, they're going to go through a full-blown, possibly have to hire an attorney for assault and battery. This will alleviate the youth from being mixed up into the system. This is more of an educational thing. We've tried everything in our power to do the restorative practices to keep going forth. And you've now crossed that line to physically fight. We try everything, and we have a lot of kids that talk to us. I mean, kids talk about everything, whether, hey, there's going to be a fight tomorrow morning.
Right.
We get on that as a school. We're immediately trying to pull kids and talk, hey, what's going to happen? This can't happen. You don't want to do this. The consequences of suspension. Right now, suspension isn't doing anything. We suspend these kids, they go home for a few days, and they think it's a vacation. They come back, and they start fighting again. And it gets worse sometimes when they're suspended because now they're on their phones and social media and they're going back and forth with everybody.
Yeah, and again, this is just an introduction, so I can do a deeper dive and more research on my own before this gets approved. But what I'm hearing is great. What I'm hearing is that this is not this is the last resort. What I'm seeing though is we'd be approving an ordinance that would, in plain language, make it a first resort for a fight. And I know you say it's not, you're not giving them a criminal record, but you are subjecting a child to the justice system. You are, I mean, I can remember, I just talked about Mike Scoop in the fight, but I can also very vividly remember my first ticket and having to go in front of the judge and have my tie on and have my parent there. And to your point, maybe that is what you're trying to get to. That is the point in this. You want to send a message. I wonder, though, if the language could be updated to make this not available as a first resort and more, as we see in the second offense, it could be up to $500 fine. Maybe some language in there that protects the child and the parents here, that they wouldn't, be subjected to the courts on a first offense.
I'm going to stop you right there, Mr. Dolan.
Certainly what you're proposing, Mr. Keys, could be made as a change. Legally, we could do that. I think what really is being discussed, though, is what we would refer to as the enforcement discretion. And in virtually all instances of any kind of police work, what you really depend on is the person who's there on the scene and how they perceive the issue and how they're going to respond on an enforcement basis. True, it does refer to a first-time offense carrying that particular penalty, but that's not to say that because it's a first-time offense means that it has to be used each time that there is a first-time fight. It could, for example, be used after someone had been in more than one fight, but now for the first time they're being given this offense. So the first time really what this is saying is the first time you're charged and found responsible under this ordinance, this is what the penalty is.
And who's making that decision? Is it the officer or the school?
It's the officer, really.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kane.
Can I say one more thing?
Okay.
Further comments of the board?
Question?
Mr.
This, I mean, we obviously have representatives here from Clintondale. Does this ordinance, how does this ordinance then apply to the other three school districts?
Oh, the same. Exactly the same.
And we have buy-in from the other districts?
Chief, I think we do. Please come to the podium. I'm certain we do.
Yeah, there should have been letters of support from Chippewa and Clintondale added to the packet. So they're in support of this as well.
Like
And,
Lance Cruz.
and the other districts in Clinton
This is-
Township?
What's that?
The other districts in Clinton Township?
Like Lance Cruz or St. Thecla.
Mount
Lance Cruz
Clemens?
doesn't have a high school in Clinton Township or a junior high.
applies to the.
I understand.
No, I'm just asking.
Fraser,
No,
ha- Fraser
not
has
talking
an
to you.
ordinance
I'm
already
talking to
on.
Mike.
Fraser has an ordinance.
All right, but we're adopting a township ordinance that then should apply to all of the school districts. I'm not opposed to this. I definitely don't want kids who don't have a fully developed brain to have criminal records following
Well, this is
them
not a
around.
criminal charge.
Right, no, I like that. But if right now, if they're called and there's a big fight, then it is a criminal charge. So this is a good improvement. I like this. But we do have parts of Lance Cruz and parts of Mount Clemens in Clinton Township. And so I just want to make sure that we are
Sure.
at a minimum communicating with them that we now have this ordinance and this can become part of their toolbox as well, if we're referring to it that way.
Sure,
But that they need to meet the standard of this ordinance if we're passing it for Clinton Township.
sure. We can reach out to the sheriff's department. They have school resource officers in some of those schools as well, or that oversee some of those schools. Yes,
Right.
we can do that.
Thank you, gentlemen. Could you step aside? There's someone in the back who'd like to speak.
I don't know if you're going to the board or the public.
You want me to go to the public or no? Go ahead. I'll take it back. Ma'am?
So if I,
want to know what the fights are about.
What, no. Well,
Well, I mean, is it
we'd
something,
like to know what the fights are about too, to prevent them.
That's right.
are they just picking on each other, or is it a legitimate fight, or is it?
Well, I was a high school teacher for 25 years. And sometimes people would bump their elbow on somebody and there would be a fight. Not very often, but it was accidental.
No, but what are the police officers saying? What is causing
Well-
the issues?
I don't think we can answer that tonight. I think we can answer that we're going to try to eliminate the problem by downgrading the penalties so that they can be enforced and that the parents and the students would understand they're being enforced. And I think that's the big part of what tonight is all about.
We gotta figure out what the issues are.
Well, I mean, do you have any children who had issues all your life? I'm sure you did,
Yes,
because
I-
you're here because you care about kids. They have issues. Sometimes we don't understand why. Okay, Mr. Gilliam, you have the floor.
So just very briefly, so my understanding of this ordinance change is that if there's a fight in the school and it's a small thing, the schools are going to take care of handling this. If this is a fight that rises to the level of needing to involve our school resource officers, the officer that you see before you, the school resource officer, if he has to get involved, currently it's a misdemeanor charge. Is that correct?
Yes,
And that's
it
a
is.
criminal offense, right?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
And
That's why
so
we're doing
by
this.
changing this ordinance to a civil infraction, it becomes a monetary fine and like a speeding ticket for a first offense. So in other words, you know, you don't have to give them a criminal record. You're able to, in a sense, issue a ticket. And they're going to have to figure out if they pay it. The parents are going to be involved, and they may have to appear in court, and the judge is actually going to have to make some discretionary decisions on this. Is that correct?
Based on who's got.
Oh, pardon me, ma'am.
Yep.
You don't have the floor. You've got to take a seat, please.
So first step is the school's handling this. Second step, if it rises to the level where the officer needs to be involved, it then becomes a civil infraction like a speeding ticket. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, you have the floor.
Eric Jackson, past deputy supervisor. Also, I worked 5 years as for the Department of Corrections Youth, almost 20 years Department of Corrections State, and 6 years in Clintondale for doing just what he said. He's spending all that.
Eric, we can't hear you, Eric.
Eric, speak on the mic.
He's trying to spend all that money for. I had first question, I heard it answered, how is the parents going to be involved? The second part is I wanted to check with the group. We had from the Media Center, they had a Rubik system before we decided to involve them into a criminal offense. I was wondering if that's still in place. Yes. And the last one is.
The answer was yes.
The answer is
Because
yes.
Nobody could hear him back
The
there.
answer was yes.
Except us.
The last one
The
is.
answer is yes.
Okay.
How do we get the parents involved? Question. When did the parents come in and get involved?
Eric, excuse me, but that's up to the schools. That's up to the parents. That's up to the community that they live in. We want the parents involved. The more parent, and as you know, the more parent involvement, the better we all are.
Is it okay if I ask them for everybody to hear when the parents are going to be brought in?
I'm sorry.
Is it okay if I ask them and they put on the record when the parents are going to be brought in? Because part of our restorative was the parents was brought in, right?
I don't know what you mean brought in.
For instance, if there's a fight, the perpetrator or the fighters will come to me. And at that point, I will investigate the matter. We have cameras in the building, and then I will make a determination. Our code of conduct states that administrators have the right to determine whether we're going to have a severe punishment or depends on the situation. We have that discretion. So a lot of times a fight may not even get to Mr. Victor. I'll take care of it. In-school suspension, restorative practice where we get the students together and they talk it out, find out the root cause of it, and I don't have any issues at that point.
Yeah.
So a lot of times Mr. Victor or Officer Victor is a last resort. You know, if somebody come up to another student all of a sudden and just haul off and hit them, Officer Victor will be called. We had a fight last year where a teacher got injured. Officer Victor's involved. Okay, but if it's a lot of times a fight will not see Officer Victor. It'll see me, and I'll handle it
And
from
that's
there.
the best thing right there.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I just want everybody to.
But we have several residents who would like to speak. Gentlemen, are you done? Because right now it's to the board and to staff coming from the police department. You're second, I'm sorry, you're first, you're second.
Sam Bushel, 18546 Wayland Drive. I'm just going to point out, it's very important to let the Fraser School District know because Salk Elementary and Disney Elementary, which were in my neighborhood, they're totally in Clinton Township, so a Fraser law is not going to be enforceable there, where they might want to have some input into this. Thank you.
Thank you. Clinton Township is blessed with 5 school districts, high school school districts. We are blessed because each one provides something different for all of our students.
All right, you guys know who I am? I'm
Well,
All Shores Ultra Mega Precinct Delegate, Precinct 23.
Put that in a microphone. That might tone it down just a little bit.
All right, I'll try and tone it down a little bit. Listen, you guys, I got the answer. All right. Back in the day, this worked just fine.
It's not going to happen. I can tell you
The
that right
parents
now.
need to discipline their
You
kids.
can't. The schools can't do that.
No, not
Even
the
the
schools.
parents
It starts
can't
with
do
the
that.
parents get involved.
The parents can't even do
They
that.
can't spank them?
Not with that.
It's got
They-
nice
they could
holes
probably-
in it.
They could
work
probably
great.
take the back of their hand and do it, but not that.
This is just a paddle. A
Maybe we
small
could let
paddle.
our speakers sit down if this is what we're.
All right,
sorry.
Maybe we could invite
I'll
our
tell you what,
speakers
this
to
could
take
be
a
part of
seat.
the
if
problem.
this
They
is
don't get
the
spanked.
direction we're going.
Michael,
Thank you for letting me talk.
forget it's not the 60s. Has anyone not had a chance to speak who wishes to speak on this topic? Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes, you do.
Well, you don't have, no, you don't have.
Otherwise, you don't count.
That's,
You don't have to say who you are.
no.
You got an attorney helping you in the audience. Go ahead, ma'am.
It's true.
My name is
It's better that we know who you are.
My name is Donna Michael. I was one of them bad kids. And I like the idea of the fact that kids you're under a lot of peer pressure, okay? The thing is, when you're brought to the office, that first visit gives you a chance for change, okay? By you hearing all the authorities and the problems it can cause and where it sets you in that school again as a target possibly, these sort of things. When you take it and bring it down to a child's level in an office across from authority, it gives that child a chance for change. So to sit here and put hard pressure right off the bat as if he's a criminal or she, you can't do that.
No, I agree.
It's not a fair
That's
level.
why we're doing this.
Yeah, I think it's important.
I do too.
God, you guys threw me right
You know,
back to when I
I'm
was a kid.
teasing about that, but life is different. Well, you can't go around doing things like we did in the old days. And maybe they were better, I don't know. I'm not saying yes or no, but it's different. And they have to deal with the kids that come to their schools that we bring them every single day. And it's not easy. And I loved my teaching days at the high school at Stevenson and Sterling Heights. 25 years of kids. And things every year changed a little bit. I'm sure they do for you too. And I'm sure they do for every school system. It's not easy being an educator. It's very difficult. A lot of teachers are leaving because of the pressures that are put upon them, not just by the kids or administrators, but by the parents who want them to be the parents sometimes. And they can't be. They can't take that paddle like you could with your little one, easy. So it's different. So what we're trying to do is make it so that we can enforce a law that makes it easier for our police department and the school administrators, especially them, to take care of the kids, which takes care of the community. You go one more time.
Mr. Cannon, I would like to say really quick before Mr. Nysett speaks, because he'd already spoken on this topic. There is a person that's attending remotely, Elvis Gatling.
Okay.
Can he speak at this time?
Yes, of course.
Okay, Mr. Gatling, to remove you're muted right now.
Yes, I'm unmuted now.
Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Elvis Gatlin. I applied for a position here for an supervising house commission here in Clinton Township. I someone asked someone about the trouble you have facing in school. To get the parents to understand what the situation is, what's going on. I believe the parents can help out a little bit more than they think they can once they get the idea of what the child is doing in school. And let it start at home and bring it back to school. And the process is I'm here on to keep the community safe and secure. I think that's the best thing to do is to get the parents to understand.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you want to
Go
go
ahead
ahead?
and recognize you, Mr. Needstead.
Thank you. Again, Fred Neenstead, 41362 Justin Drive, Clinton Township. 30 years ago, I believe it was the first time that an ordinance or a state law demanded that a child be removed from school for having a weapon in school. The result of that was that teachers simply failed to report when they found a weapon on a student. The lack of two-parent households is endemic in our society and is at the center of this problem, I believe. Why is it that we want to abdicate the role of parents so that the schools can fulfill that role with court authority? I really want to understand that every opportunity is taken for the parents to maintain superior position when dealing with children in the schools. Thank you.
I guarantee you, every school administrator would say the very same thing. No. Have the parents take control of their kids, and the school doesn't have to worry about discipline. Every single parent would think that. Every single student should think that, because they don't want the police chief or a detective coming up to them and saying, your child's in trouble. We don't want that. All of us in school had minor things. Some of you had big things, but not me. We don't want a record. We want kids to be successful. We want them to go out and make money so they can pay our Social Security. That's what we want. Seriously.
If I may, Mr. Cannon, real quick.
Of course.
Obviously, we'll check with those other districts. Thank you for bringing that up. This was brought to me, Detective Victor, and talking with the schools and the school resource officers at Chippewa Valley High School. With the increase of the fights, they see the problem. We always look for solutions for the problem, right? We're problem solvers. That's what we do. This is not something that somebody gets into a fight for the first time, they're going to be issued a citation. It's what Mr. Dolan said. It's when that citation, when it rises, the behavior rises to the level then where everything else was exhausted to modify that behavior through the school, through the social workers, through support staff there. Then this gives the officers in the school an opportunity to then say, okay, you're rising to that level. We need to issue a citation, maybe get the court involved because somebody is not really understanding the issue here before something rises to a little bit more of a significant issue. So I think if you get people involved, instead of parents wanting their child or someone else's child charged criminally with assault, we have a means now to get the court involved, at a lower level when it rises to that, to help to modify behavior, to help identify some of those issues, anger management, conflict resolution, all of those things that we can all agree we could all use a little bit of help on every once in a while. So that's what the heart of this ordinance is. We can obviously, we'll get with those other school districts if they're aware of it and that they're in support of that. Both Chippewa and Clintondale are with those letters. I hope you have that in that packet. But we'll do that for the next board meeting before you guys, put it into place. So I just wanted to say that. That's not anybody's plan is to do that. But suspensions and different things is difficult because you have one family household. Somebody gets suspended and it can be a hardship on the family. If we can avoid that and get somebody going in a better direction, I think that's at the heart of what this ordinance is for.
That's a perfect way to say it, Chief. Thank you.
Mr. Kennick, could you just explain to everybody the process that we're involved with here? So if they're interested in.
Well, I want Mr. Dolan to do that because this is a legal issue. And we're changing basically the way we enforce the law to make it easier for kids to comply and to change.
Right.
Jack?
Yeah, and I think through this discussion, many points have been raised, and we've drawn in a lot of issues involving not just the students, but in some cases, parents, and in, unfortunately, some cases, parents who aren't as involved as they should be. And really what this is this is something less than a criminal charge, but it does involve both the criminal justice system in the sense that it's a police officer who's writing the ticket, and it's an appearance, if need be, in a district court. The idea is that now there's an interdiction of the criminal justice system, and the person who goes through this process at the end of it may end up paying a fine, may be involved in some remedial therapies through programs that the court imposes, or may have to just do community service that would involve, doing something that's for the benefit of the public. The whole idea here, though, is it's not just don't do it again type of level, but on the other hand, it's not you're now charged with a crime, you're facing a judge or jury and will end up potentially with a criminal record. And the whole idea also is to hit these people who are involved, I'll call them people, they're obviously children, at an age at a lower level so that we can try to see if we can't get some behavior correction happening at a sooner point in time. And again, ultimately, like everything else in the criminal justice system, the real point people on this are the people who are going to write the tickets. And I think we've seen through, at least I've seen through my many decades, great discretion and professionalism used by our police officers, who I see no reason why they wouldn't continue with that great use of discretion in these sorts of circumstances.
Well, I appreciate the long explanation
attorney
here.
and I talked
What I really was asking about is the process of adopting an ordinance.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
That's okay. You gave a recap, but
What she was asking, but.
Sorry, well, we've introduced,
You gotta
tonight
add that
what
on to
happens
your-
is we simply, by vote, introduce formally the ordinance that we've now discussed. We come back 2 weeks from now to adopt, and the ordinance will then be adopted and published.
And by the way, in 2 weeks, if you don't like it, you can change your mind.
Right.
I got it. Publish that, TJ?
Well, we adopt, we
We're going to
introduce and
stop
publish.
discussion at this point. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
support.
And
To
if
introduce and
people don't
publish.
like it, let us know.
To
Let your
introduce and
administrators know,
publish.
because we can change and not adopt it in 2 weeks. Roll call, please.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Clerk Mussler, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. We've done item 3. We've got 30 items on the agenda, so we will be here how many more minutes?
We're going to move fast.
We're going to miss the Lions game. Okay, item 4. The clerk's office receives passport acceptance.
I do
Perfect
want to
score.
explain, Mr. Cannon, if I may first, to everybody listening, this is not a statutory duty that this clerk office performs, but it is one that was started by two previous clerks, and We have found it to be a great service for our community as well as a revenue maker. So the U.S. Department of State was recently in our office giving us an audit, and this is what they said. Dear Acceptance Facility Supervisor, we would like to congratulate you on your facility's commendable review on the AFO report for the audit conducted at your facility. As an acceptance facility, you play an essential role in helping American citizens obtain their passports, and we are proud to work with such a great team of people who help provide the public with quality service and information. On behalf of the United States Department of State, we thank you for your hard work and dedication to serving American citizens. The Detroit Passport Agency is committed to providing you with ongoing support to make your participation in the passport application acceptance program successful. Please do not hesitate to contact us if you have any questions or need additional information. Sincerely, Customer Service Branch of the Detroit Passport Agency in Detroit. So I just wanted to publicly announce that is something we continue to do. So if you need a passport, a new passport, we do those, and we'll help you with your renewal at no cost if you need help with that.
Mr. Gilliam?
So, Mr. Keenan, I'd like to make a motion to receive and file the letter and congratulate Ms. Meltzer and her staff on the great work and the accolades from the Department of State.
Thank you. Thank you.
support.
No, supported by Mr. Kress. Thank you, Bill. Roll call, please.
Treasurer Gilliam.
Yes.
Trustee Kress.
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak.
Yes.
Trustee Keys.
Yes.
Trustee Patton.
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon.
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 5, introduction of applicant for appointment to the Housing Commission.
Dear board members, there is one partial term open on the Clinton Township Housing Commission. The commission holds terms of 5 years. There is one partial term expiring January 3rd, 2025. Applicant must reside in Clinton Township Village Public Housing. In adherence to the Michigan statute, the supervisor brings forth the following applicant for introduction and approval, Elvis Gatling. His application for appointment is attached for your review. Per the policy guidelines, an invitation has been extended to this applicant to attend the September 30th, 2024 board meeting, where an opportunity will be given to make a 3-minute introduction. Thank you for your attention in this matter. Sincerely, Robert Cannon, Supervisor. And Mr. Cannon, Mr. Gatling is attending the meeting remotely, if he'd like to speak.
Mr. Gatling, would you like to speak?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, yes, sir. I filled that application because I wanted to join the organization of the House Commission to make it better for the senior citizens and others that's living here in the community. They make it more safer and secure. Not obviously modernize the place, but to make sure everything goes respectively and correctly. To slow down the fights and quarrels and things that goes wrong here in the community. Just to have some discussion about it, to talk to those who cause the troubles, to release the troubles. So I think that will constitute everyone else into living more perspectively. The feel some has. I sort of want it to disappear. I want to put in the right direction and take the curve along in this community. I'm a veteran. I served in the Army National Guard in Haiti. Honorably discharged. I believe I'm qualified enough to do so. At least give a shot and succeed in it. And that's why I recommend it for this position. I know it's voluntary, but someone has to speak up. And I believe that person can be me. And that's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Well, thank you for calling in, first of all, and also thank you for applying. What I would like to do tonight is let folks know we need a resident who lives in the community to be on that board. It's very difficult to get someone who's interested and wants to do better for the community to volunteer because there's no pay. So my recommendation tonight, because I've talked to other board members who currently serve, who have interviewed him, is that we appoint him, because he would be an asset to not only the community that he lives in personally, but to the community as a whole, Clinton Township. So that, my recommendation is to appoint Elvis Gatling tonight.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Thank you.
Support.
Thank you very much. I think that's a wise decision. Roll call, please.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Clerk Melcher, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Finally, an easy one. Introduction of applicants for a reappointment to the Arboretum Committee.
Dear board members, there are 4 terms open on the Arboretum Committee. The committee holds terms of 3 years. The terms expire October 13th, 2027. Attached for your review is an application for appointment from the following applicants: Henry Summerstorfer, Loretta Macklem, and Barbara Baldinger. Per the policy guidelines, an invitation was extended to the applicants to attend the September 30th, 2024 board meeting, where they will be given 3 minutes to reintroduce themselves to the Board of Trustees. Thank you for your attention on this matter. Sincerely, Robert Cannon, Supervisor.
Are there any comments or questions about the applicants? If you walk through the Arboretum, you know how nice it is over there.
It's great.
It's awesome.
Tammy, you have the
I make a
floor.
motion for approval. For
Support.
all 3 applications.
Board of- Tammy and Julie, roll call, please.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Clerk Melcher, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. We have an applicant for reappointment to the Downtown Development Authority, who's been on for a long time, who has done a fabulous job.
There are 5 terms open on the Downtown Development Authority. The authority holds terms of 4 years. The 5 terms are expiring January 5th of 2028. And the reappointment for James Johnson, original appointment was 2013. Is he here
Make
to
a motion
speak?
for approval.
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Clerk Melcher, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Item 9, recommendation of the Police Chief Selection Committee.
Dear members of the board, the Police Chief Selection Committee is recommending the board appoint Captain Preston Susala as Clinton Township Police Chief upon the retirement of Chief Dina Karenji. The committee selected Captain Susala from 2 highly qualified internal candidates after extensive interviews and credential review. Captain Susala has held multiple positions and served in numerous leadership roles during his 22-year tenure with the Clinton Township Police Department. The committee unanimously and without reservation recommends his appointment. Should the board accept his recommendation and appoint Captain Susala, he would assume the duties and responsibilities of police chief upon the retirement of Chief Karenji in June of 2025. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Sincerely, William Smith, Human Resources Director.
I'll make
Thank
a
you.
motion for approval for Captain.
Support.
There was a lot of thought and a lot of work put into the evaluation of who would be the next chief. A lot,
So,
Paul?
Mr. Cannon, if I may,
of course.
you can see Captain Susala sitting out there very, very seriously, and the person with the biggest smile on her face is Chief Karenji there. So,
But she's still got some time to go.
but this was, yeah, she's still got plenty of time with us. But we do appreciate the work, and this was a tough call. These were great candidates, and they're ready to take on that role of leadership. And I appreciate that they're ready to do that.
Thank you.
Real quick, if I may.
Can we get a
Of course.
second before, can we just get a second?
We did.
I second.
Okay,
second.
okay, very good, thank you.
So some people may wonder why this decision is being made now as opposed to closer to June of next year. Couple of reasons. I had taken over after Chief Postvus had passed away. We had Chief Wade for a short time, and then he, due to mandatory retirement age, had to retire. So we only had about 6 months. Chief passed away, and we had Chief Wade for about 6 months. So the transition and the succession plan, there wasn't one, to be honest. And so when I made my decision to do that retirement, I wanted something very thoughtful, very intentional, very timely, that we could have time for a nice transition. So that was my decision to kind of make that request and make my plans known. So it was a difficult decision, and both candidates serve the community tremendously every day. Great leadership. I have every confidence in Captain Susala that he's going to lead this department into more success and more accomplishments and everything else we accomplished. He was an accreditation manager. He was a big part of us getting accredited, receiving that honor next week when we get our official plaque. So that was a really, it felt really good to accomplish. So he is going to take this department further, so I have no doubt. So
I
just wanted to
totally
say that.
agree. We didn't get a chance to say goodbye properly to Chief Posevitz. Chief Wade, we knew he only had so many days, and he did fill a void that we needed desperately at that time. And now, Preston, we're all happy you're coming in. Again, like Mr. Gilliam said, we had two great candidates. Either candidate would lead this community ahead for many, many years. So thank you for all of you you, Paul, and Dan, and everyone else who was part of the committee. And Kim, you were part of the committee. It's hard to pick between two superstars. But it's like a woman who wants it done way ahead of time, and you did. You did it exactly how you wanted. You did it exactly how you wanted to. So thank you for doing that, Dina. You're a great chief. A motion is in order. Oh, we have one. I'm sorry. Roll call, please.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Clerk Melcher, yes.
Okay, now I'm
Motion
going to
passes.
allow, which I usually would not, Chief in Waiting, Preston Susala, to say a few words.
Preston Susala, captain at the Clinton Township Police Department. Just want to say that I am completely honored to be here, completely honored to be recommended by the board, by the interview board. Would have loved to have my family here tonight because this means a lot to me and my family, but my son has senior night tonight. So he's on a field and the family's there. So unfortunately they couldn't be here tonight, but they can watch the video version, I guess. So, Chief Corinci has done a lot in the past 4 years. We've had a lot of progressive change. We have a great group of very brave men and women at our department who are passionate about, keeping our community safe. And I'm just happy to be part of that team. I am happy and I'm confident that I will be able to pick up where Chief Corinci has left and be able to lead our department to success. So I just want to say thank you. Appreciate it.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
You can hug him, Chief.
Handshake. We got rules.
All right. Number 10, request approval of compensation increase for the Police and Fire Civil Service Commission.
Dear
Mr.
Board
Kanan?
of Trustees, it has been brought,
I'm sorry.
I was going to ask, can I make a motion to approve items 10 and 11?
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Thank you.
Mrs. Meltzer?
okay. Dear Board of Trustees, it has been brought to our attention that the members of the Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals received a compensation increase to $100 per meeting. The Police and Fire Civil Service Commissioners receive $45 per meeting and have not received an increase for at least 15 years, probably longer. Please know, we do not serve on this commission for the per meeting payment. We are taking into consideration the government's cost of living numbers over the years. Therefore, we respectfully request the compensation be increased to $100 per meeting for each commissioner. Thank you for your consideration. Police and Fire Chiefs Civil Service Commissions, including John Russi, Commission Chairperson, Bethany Pryor, Commissioner, and Derek Wilczynski, Commissioner.
Mr. Keys, you have the floor.
I was just going to make a motion to approve both items 10 and 11.
Well, we're on 10, and I'll give you 11.
That's all I was asked. So
Okay.
it's okay. I was watching the clock and knowing the Lions are starting. That's all. My bad. So I'll make a motion.
Is there a second for item 10?
Yes. That's
Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Clerk Melcher, yes. Motion passed.
Thank you. Item 11, request approval of compensation increase for the Employee Civil Service Commission.
Members of the board, it has been brought to our attention that members of the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals received a compensation increase to $100 per meeting. Civil Service Commission members received $40 per meeting since the act was adopted in 1970. If adjusted for government cost of living numbers, a seven-fold increase, that would be equivalent to $280 in today's currency. We respectfully request that our compensation be increased to $100 per meeting. Respectfully submitted, the Civil Service Commission.
Mr. Keys, you have the
So
floor.
moved?
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Keys,
Yes.
Trustee Patton,
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak,
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon,
Yes.
Trustee Kress,
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam,
Yes.
Clerk Melser, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Item 12.
Mr. Cannon, we'd just like to thank the board.
What? We can't hear you. Oh, we can hear you, but people at home trying to watch can't hear you. And I know you've got a booming voice, but it's not that booming. Thank you, John. I'm teasing you, of course.
Of course. How else would it be? At any rate, Mr. Cannon and the entire board, I got to tell you what a pleasure it is to be in this room. I've probably been in this room many more, even though you're all on the board, I've been in this room many hours, and it's always a pleasure to be here, and it's always a pleasure to address this board. I want to thank you for what you did for the Police and Fire Civil Service Commission. I want to say for the record, I thought I'd get a chance to say something, that the commission looks forward to working with Captain Sasala when that time comes. We saw the transition with Chief Posovitz, with Bruce Wade, with Dina Karingi, and now we look forward to it. It's been a rapid succession, but we look forward to it. On behalf of I'm also a member of the Employee Civil Service Commission. On behalf
Oh,
of
you're double dipping.
Double dipping. That's double dipping. On behalf of we have our other two commissioners here. On behalf of the Civil Service Commission, they said, John, if you're going to get up and talk, thank them for us too, because they'll know I'll talk too much. So thank you all again.
Thank you,
We greatly
John.
appreciate it.
Mrs. Meltzer, we have a motion on the floor?
We already did, yes, we're ready to move on to item 12. We already voted.
Did we vote on that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Item 12.
So moved?
Utica Road?
Support.
Are you sure? Great Baraboo?
Yeah.
I'm fine.
I've been looking at this item, so I know that's the one we're on.
Okay.
Support.
This is an expansion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a support on the floor. Are you the petitioner?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm Andrew Miller with Design House Architecture.
Okay, so right now, you're in good shape. You've got a motion on the floor and a support. You want to say anything?
Nope.
Nope.
Smart man.
Maybe give us a little preview
I'm
of
just
the
giving you a choice. You're winning. Sir, the fellow next to you wants to speak. If you don't mind, yeah, let him through.
Again, it's quite amazing that a site plan like this would be, before it was even read out, would be have Mike and Tammy just right away want it. My big question would be, and my name is Sam Bushel, does this particular, and I'm not against Great Baraboo, like it, been there many times. This is a major expansion into a setback area. Does the letter from the Planning Commission and the Planning Department state that this meets all laws and ordinances in Clinton Township?
The answer is yes.
It does. It doesn't mention that there's many variances on the property and more needed?
Variances are allowed.
I realize
See,
that.
I know you don't like variances, but variances are, we have variances because you can't do a law ordinance that meets everybody's requirements.
Right.
So you have an opportunity to ask for a variance. And that's what this is.
And that's why I would assume that the letter to the board would at least state that it meets all laws.
It does.
Because
I can
it
tell you
has
right now it
many
does.
variances.
You can stop right now.
Yeah.
It does.
Many variances.
Thank you.
Mr. Kennedy? Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so for me to support Trustee Keys, he's read over it, but I also sit on the Planning Commission.
Yes.
So this isn't the first time I've seen this,
No.
discussed it, or anything like that. And we did send it over to the board unanimously. So that's why I said go ahead, and I would support it.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a support. Anyone else wishes to speak to it? Roll call, please.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Clerk Melcher, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Now we go on to item 13, 2+ acres on Groesbeck, north of Elizabeth.
This commission has made review of the proposed rezoning from OS1 Office Service Low Rise to I1 Light Industrial and has voted to recommend that the Township Board approve this request. This action was approved by unanimous vote, and this matter was petitioned by Philip Leone, PL and L Investments. Sincerely, George Sasson, Secretary for the Clinton Township Planning Commission.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Is there a second?
Support.
It's pretty straightforward.
All set?
Roll call, please.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Just quickly, when I look at the site plan, the one thing that just confused me is I think would be in the, well, we might consider the rear, those blue lines that look like parking spots.
Yes.
That's all going to be parking there? And is a vehicle going to be able to drive through there while there's parking there, or will that be?
That is just a preliminary site plan.
Phil, we can't hear you talking to
I'm
the
sorry,
microphone.
that's just a preliminary site plan. We'll bring the real site plan in when we're ready.
And do you intend to have parking back there then?
We haven't decided
You
yet.
haven't
We
decided.
might have
Okay,
front
so
loading
we'll
parking.
go over that again when you bring, okay, thank you.
So the board will have another shot at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Sam Bushel, and yes, I attend an awful lot of planning commission meetings. This particular project is a bunch of garage-style industrial uses, and that's fine on Groesbeck, except for this is literally, the preliminary plan didn't have much on it other than the fact it was a bunch of garage-style facilities. It is directly across the street from the major PUD that is under development for residential and commercial and even senior citizen housing. And I feel if all of a sudden this office space is now a question mark, they may have a much harder time getting financing to go with the high quality, high taxed single family homes and condos across the street. I think it's a bad idea to rezone this when there's, it's around, it's office space around it, it's residential across the street. Seems like the wrong place to have a garage-style industrial use.
Thank you for your thoughts. Roll call, please.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Clerk Melcher, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Item 14, Romeo Plank, south of Hall Road.
This commission has made review of the proposed conditional zoning request for rezoning R4 one-family residential to RML multiple family residential low-rise and has voted to recommend approval of the proposed conditional rezoning and conditional rezoning agreement contingent upon the necessary variances being granted and conditioned upon the petitioner revising the site plan to incorporate the fence treatment discussed at the meeting. This action was approved by unanimous vote, and this matter was petitioned by Greg Buss, Briarwood Development Company, LLC. We submit this proposal for consideration and would appreciate advisement of your determination. Sincerely, George Sasson, Clinton Township Planning Department Treasurer, or, I'm sorry, Secretary.
I think we'll start with the board. Comments or questions?
I just want to restate what I read here, that this was originally given a conditional zoning for office use.
Yes,
And
a
now-
long time back, but yes.
Yeah, I don't remember doing this, so it was way before I got here. And now it is being proposed to use for low-rise and 8-unit multifamily housing. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. What
First
was it?
off,
Does
before
anybody
you can
know
end,
what
we
it was?
we need your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Ron Jonah. My offices are at 1066 Commerce in Birmingham. I'm representing Greg Buss. I was the architect and planner on the project.
Julie, you have the floor.
The variance is, the section that says why the variance is necessary. The one that concerns me is the minimum side yard setback. We have a side yard setback of 35 feet This one is 15 feet short of that. I'm just wondering,
Have you seen the shape of the parcel?
I have seen the shape of the parcel.
And you're aware that we have 3 acres, of which 2.5 acres is being put in a permanent conservation easement? And we had worked on this project for roughly 2 years with the planning department and engineering. We have to bring sewer and water from across the street. There's going to be extensive site development, so we've not touched and put the conservation easement on the wetland and floodplain area. And we did our best to minimize variances. I think we have the 3. And
Right.
that side yard, in an attempt to make sure that our one neighbor to the south is unaffected, we met with that neighbor. She's here tonight, she may speak. We proposed a landscape buffer across that side. That wasn't adequate for her taste. We went out there, we saw a very large stand of pine trees that we planned on keeping, but after noticing their age, how much they infringed on her property, they actually were a detriment. We agreed with her. We are proposing a 6-foot-high precast concrete masonry wall across an entire south property line for acoustical and visual barrier. We think that'll provide, actually a lot more security and separation from her property.
And the neighbor is in agreement with that?
The neighbor has, yes. In fact, that we actually took her advice on what she was looking for there, and that's what we proposed.
Okay, that was my only concern with it. The lack of a couple of parking spaces and other things are fine, but that one I was concerned about. Thank you.
It is a very difficome piece.
Yeah,
No
oh, it
question
is.
about it.
A lot of wetlands we have to protect.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cannon?
Mrs. Meltzer, come on up.
So
It's
these
going to
are,
take you a minute.
sir, so these are 1,800 square foot,
They're 1,300 and 1,200.
13 and 1,200. Okay.
2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms.
1,300. And then also, the top of those, is that a type of wood, or what is that? That's not cement, is it, on the top part of the,
Yeah, that's opaque stained OSB board, we call it, on the top part.
they look really nice.
Thank you,
They do look really nice.
thank you.
What
I
are
have
the-
a board if you want to see a little more.
What
of
is the, what are you guys asking for these? What's the
I honestly,
projected or
I was asked
guesstimated
that,
cost?
I was asked by the planning commission, and I gotta be honest with you, I can't give you a number. We have not bid out the project because of the extensive site work and the current construction climate. We probably won't have numbers on these until next spring, actually, but I apologize, I just don't have figures yet.
Okay, thank you. That was it.
Yes, ma'am.
Brenda Neiman, 43280 Romeo Plank Road. I'm the property right south of that parcel. With that variance, I didn't know how far they were going to be off my property. That's why, because their way they're planned is their unit is going to be overlooking my backyard.
Right.
And living there for 50-some years, flooding is a major issue. We're going to have more water. I've already seen it around. It was flooded twice within a week in my backyard. I mean, I know I live on a floodplain. This is going to increase the floodplain. More water is going to come up. You're going to take away the wetland areas. He's building right to the floodplain. And we've seen the increase of waters this year. It's just going to even rise even more. It should stay as a single-family residential, not a multi-function on a 1 acre parcel that's only usable. It should stay as a single family.
Mr. Gannon?
Yes, Kim.
Just a question for you. So were you the resident he spoke with regarding
Yes.
the, and so
Yes.
you didn't have this conversation with him?
We had a conversation about the wall. He wanted to put it off 5 feet off my property line so he can put landscape in there. That gives him more access to my property, or people walking on that side saying it's part of my property.
So you're not in agreement with this?
I'm in agreement with it. I said it has to be on their side of the property, the 6 inches or whatever the ordinance calls for fencing. I'm fine with that, but they're gonna be 2-story. They're gonna be looking over the fence. I'm 6 foot tall. I'm gonna be as tall as that. I mean, I've lived there all my life.
So Mr. Cannon, I did have a question earlier today with our planning director, Mr. Thompson, and I was concerned about the flooding there as well, because I know that that does get
It
flooded
does.
there.
And it's I got pictures on my phone. It comes up even higher every year.
So with more cement, more building there, there'll be less pervious surface. How do we manage that increase in a floodplain like that? Mary Bednar might be more
Well,
able
who
to
do you,
answer.
you want to ask Mrs. Bednar?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So at this point, the plan has not come in for engineering review. It's come in for a site plan review. So we will be looking at the engineering standards to make sure they meet those standards. Our stormwater standards are coincide with our own standards, but also the county standards, which does require site plan, stormwater measures and mechanisms, so that will be looked at. That floodplain and floodway is right in that area, but we do look at that as part of the final engineering plan review.
Well, so when you say that you look at that, what does that mean
So
exactly?
we will address it, and we hold to the
and
current
fix it?
standards. And so those standards, we look at the water quality as well as water volume. So I can't say it won't. I can tell you this: it's not going to impact her home, but we will look at it and make sure they meet our standards for stormwater quality and quantity. So whenever you put in any kind of paved surfaces, you can see it increase, but it's not going to have a negative impact based on our ordinances.
Mm-hmm. So will this resident be involved in that conversation?
Not normally. After we still have to get site plan, right, Bruce? They haven't had site plan,
That is correct.
so they still have to get a site plan
No,
review.
I'm sorry. The site plan is part of
The conditional
rezoning.
Okay, so
they would be
they will
granted
still
that.
need engineering review, and at that point, it's engineers talking to engineers. And we're making sure, and the county will have to permit this as well because it's going into the middle branch of the Clinton River, which is a county drain. So there'll be lots of review agencies looking at this and getting required permits. If there's cut or fill in the floodplain, it will also require an EGLE permit. So there's lots of steps before this thing gets approved. I see that their engineer is here, so he may have more on the design at this point.
Can I speak more?
Hang on for just a second.
Thank you.
Just so the record's clear, there are discussions that occur between the department and also outside consulting engineers, but all of the documentation that's involved in the engineering process is a matter of public record.
I understand that.
And you have the opportunity to review the documents that are prepared
Oh, I
as the
understand that.
process moves along.
My thing is when Purchase Creek got bought out and all those condos and all the apartments and all that kind of stuff came in, I've seen an increase in flooding in my area. I mean, I know they put a retention pond in. That doesn't help. It's even more water. My neighbor across the street from me, there's that retention pond, a little bit of retention pond from those apartments there. That even floods even more than it ever has. Like I said, I've grown up in this area. That's my family home, what I grew up in. And we used to be able to play in the flats in the summertime. Half the time I can't even get down there. I don't even mow it anymore because the deer are down there. I mean, I have a family of 12 deer living down there that they come up with babies and stuff like
Can
that.
I ask you, are you in favor of the project or not?
No,
Thank you.
residential
Thank-
only.
Well,
Single family residential only.
thank you.
My name is Bill Thompson. I work at Seabrook East Laner, 1700-119 Malville, Clinton Township. There are several permits that have to be obtained in this project before they can be developed. We have to satisfy first of all, we have to satisfy the township, the county, and the state as far as impact on any floodplain or any floodway. The floodway is, excuse me, you can't mess with a floodway. Floodplain, you could possibly fill it, but that's not the intent here. We're staying away from that property, staying away from that line, and developing the site. You've got 3.2 acres there, and only about 7/10 of it is available for development because of the floodplain. We're trying to respect that, and we'll get all the necessary approvals necessary to get this thing done.
Thank you. There's folks online, sir, are you adding anything, or are you just kind of hanging
I was
out?
just letting Bill,
Okay. Sir, you wish to speak?
there again, this is a conditional rezoning. And I was at the planning commission meeting. They didn't have a complete site plan then. It was missing stuff like the sidewalk. And from what I understand and what I looked at online, tonight you're voting on a conditional rezoning, which includes the site plan, and it's not complete. And so what it states is, per the discussion at the planning commission, I hope you've all listened to that, because I know one of the things is, like even on the sidewalks, they said, oh, we're not putting sidewalks on that side of the street. Really? Seems that the auto dealerships and such just beyond there all have sidewalks. Don't know why that would be a missing link. And why would this board, and this kind of fits into the next agenda item so much, why would this board vote on something that's not complete, that is the final straw? This is the final, you don't have another pass at this. This is the site plan, this is everything. And I realize the planning commission has been pushing on a lot of stuff without completed site plans, and this board has been voting on it. That's how you've gotten so many of the chain link fences instead of screen walls for residents. And it's really very important in a conditional rezoning that all of the, everything's got to be crossed and set in stone before you vote on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is something new?
Yes. If I may, Mr. Supervisor, just briefly, I'd like to state that what this gentleman said was incorrect. Upon our last review with Planning Commission, sidewalk was extended across the entire frontage from the south to where it hits the wetland on the north. So there is public sidewalk. It was requested to be added, and we added it along with the wall.
That's correct. Thank you. Other consultants that wish to speak, or residents in the area? I know it's a very difficult site. I know that sometimes residents don't understand what happens at planning commission meetings and make statements that are not accurate. So the floor is open for a motion to approve.
I'd like to make a motion to deny the request for rezoning.
Support.
Okay. Jack, do they need to give a reason why at this point?
No, it's a legislative act. so
Okay, that's
there's no
fine.
reason required.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Kress?
No.
Well, you would say yes.
Yes.
It's your
Say
motion
yes.
to deny.
Yes to deny.
Trustee Keys?
Always
Yes.
gets me.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Penn?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Motion to deny passes.
The petitioner has ways he can go if he wishes. This is a very difficult piece of property to complete. So good luck. With that, we'll go to ITC, item 15. 85 acres on 19 Mile Road.
This commission has made review of the proposed request for special land use approval and site development plan approval for the proposed ITC Shrine Interconnection Project Essential Services request and voted to recommend approval of the petitioner's request that the proposal be developed in accordance with the approved site plan, that it be accomplished in a timely manner with a landscaping warranty of 2 seasons, that either ITC is responsible for installation of the landscaping improvements or a fund be set up to ensure installation where necessary, and that the approval is recommended for the reasons stated in Mr. Thompson's report to the Planning Commission. The action was there was no recommendation given on this particular vote, and the matter was petitioned by Neil Bishop, ITC, as represented by Stephen R. Este Esquire, Sosmer, PC. Sincerely, George Sasson, Secretary for the Clinton Township Planning Commission.
Ma'am, are you representing the ITC?
I am.
Hello. Could we get your name and address,
Sure.
please?
Hi, good evening. Cynthia Stump, Director of Local Government and Community Affairs for ITC, 27175 Energy Way, Novi, Michigan.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing us.
You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you Supervisor Cannon and board for allowing us to present tonight. Neil Bishop is unavailable to attend, so I am here as his replacement this evening, and I've worked with many of you for over the past 20 years, so it's good to see all of you again. Along with ITC here tonight, we have our partners in Henry Ford and DTE, and Steve Esty will be presenting with me today, as well as their subject matter experts from ITC, should there be questions that I'm not the best expert to answer. So on the slides across the room, we have additional information, and also one moment. We're going to see if technology wants to work. While technology is being updated, I have packets of information that just has additional information about ITC, general information that we'd like to present to the board if
Give
possible.
it to Mrs. Meltzer, please.
Could you just give those to Ms. Meltzer? Thanks. So here today are a variety of representatives that we have from our capital project management team, our field soups, and our legal team as well. So in your packets, hopefully you're familiar with ITC, but those who are not, ITC owns and operates the high voltage electric transmission grid. So in this area, DTE generates the power and ITC moves the power to where it needs to get to so it can be transmitted to your homes and delivered to your homes through DTE. So for every dollar you pay DTE, 4 cents comes back to ITC for transmission. We are just a small piece of the puzzle, but very important for here tonight because we're here in front of you for this special use permit and site plan approval for the new 120,000 volt transmission line along 19 Mile to Garfield. So in your packet, there is what we call called the Shrine Project, because that is the name of the substation that is currently built at 19 and Garfield. The Shrine substation, the new transmission line would be there where it connects to an existing infrastructure as well. In your packets on the left side, there is the Shrine Interconnection Project, if you want to read more about that in detail, but it is a summary of all the things that we'll talk about today, as well as general examples of what our transmission lines look like. Throughout Clinton Township currently, you have our steel lattice towers, and you'll also have, with this new structure, if approved tonight, would be the monolithic steel poles. And so in front of you, you see an example of a monolithic steel pole. And throughout Macomb County, we've been doing new infrastructure throughout the area, throughout many of the townships that you may traverse going to and from different places. So with me at this time, I'm going to introduce Henry Ford. We're trying to keep moving and do a little introduction as well.
Geez, I didn't see you sitting way over there.
Good evening, and thank you for having me as well. Mike Markle, I'm the Chief Nurse and Vice President for Operations at Henry Ford Macomb Hospital, located at 15855 19 Mile Road. This project is part of our overall master plan. We completed our new tower installation within the last 18 months. And part of that plan, but also part of the plan for our entire campus, is to improve the actual power distribution, the receipt and distribution of power there. So in addition to what's being discussed tonight, we've added 5 new generators. We've improved our power plant. And this project, bringing the power to the substation on our property, allows us to complete the engineering profile for our hospital and anything that happens in the future. Thank you.
Good evening. Supervisor Cannon, members of the board. My name is Stephen Esty. I'm with Zausmer, and my address is 32255 Northwestern Highway in Farmington Hills. As was mentioned, staff has recommended approval of this project. We are the first project to come through your new ordinance 1250.09 essential services. And so we are proceeding under that ordinance as what is called an extreme essential service, but at the highest priority of township-focused essential services. When we were at the Planning Commission, while we had staff recommendation and Trustee Patton made a motion to approve, and that was supported, the motion was 4-4. So no recommendation was made. The reason for that was that initially when we had prepared the plans, while landscaping isn't set forth in the ordinance as to exactly what needs to happen, the ordinance itself says that screening shall be provided where practicable. We had been in discussions with Henry Ford, and we had come to a conclusion that they did not want additional screening or landscaping in front of their property. Staff had suggested that they would like to see it. Therefore, we went back to Henry Ford after the Planning Commission meeting, and we continued the same type of vegetation that we've proposed all along the frontage of these properties. There's 12 properties in Clinton Township, and the goal really that we had, in addition to getting the project approved through this essential service ordinance, was to leave the properties in conforming status. And so by proposing this vegetation, while not directly required under the requirements of the ordinance for the site plan, what it does do is it puts these properties back into a conforming status so that their properties can continue in a legally status quo position, if you will. And so we've, because it is a transmission line, we've proposed what we call compatible vegetation, along with a 3-foot masonry wall that's capped by limestone. And we've worked with Henry Ford. We did submit and supplement our application with the Henry Ford landscaping, so the application is complete. It's no different than all of the other landscaping that was along the entire route that we've worked hard with staff to identify and to put in place. So we're looking for your approval tonight so that this project, important project, can move forward for not just Henry Ford, but the entire community. And that's why I want to invite DTE up now to explain briefly to the board why this project is necessary and the importance that it will have in light of the expansion that Henry Ford did to their facility.
Well, I can invite them up at your request.
Yes, if you would.
But I would like to say, as important as your company is to all of us in Michigan, you were negligent in getting information to us in a timely fashion. We need to approve what you're trying to do because the hospital needs it desperately. I know that. Not just the hospital, but the people who live in that area need it desperately. ITC has done a lot of good things, but now you drag your feet and then you put the board, all of us, at risk of saying no to somebody who needs that power to run a hospital, a major hospital. Who years ago would have imagined St. Joe Hospital coming to Clinton Township as an outside agency on a dirt road, growing to the point where they are today, where they've got to bring you in to bring extra power to the community to service our residents and the people who are sick. And we appreciate the hospital desperately, and we appreciate the power that comes to it, but we don't appreciate the fact that you dragged your feet. I want to let you know that ahead of time. We're going to work with you because we have to. We want that project done. We have to have that project done. We can't say there's not going to be power for the hospital to run the hospital, or the people who live in the area to have power for their homes or their garage door openers. So now I will accept who you want to bring up. But I want to let you know that this board and this community behind me, my staff, is not happy with the response that we got, the slow response from ITC. We want you to be a success because your success is our success.
Understood. Thank you, Supervisor Cannon.
Thank you.
No, this is good actually. Leave if you how do I get back to that? Keep going. There you go. This is I like this better. Good evening, Supervisor Cannon and Board. Philip Whitman, Regional Manager, Corporate Government Affairs for DTE Energy. 43230 Elizabeth Road here in Clinton Township. So we're up here in a unique situation for DTE. We are ITC's customer in this case, and Henry Ford is going to be our customer at the already constructed Shrine substation on Garfield and 19 Mile Road. That equipment is already there. And so I just wanted to highlight really a couple of benefits to the people of Clinton Township for this project. And I know the board has the materials and you probably know a lot of what I'm going to say. But if you see up there, and I left this up here from ITC's presentation because I wanted to show the area that's being served by two substations. One is called Malta. It's in Sterling Heights, and then there's also Macomb substation, which serves a vast portion of Clinton Township. Currently, Henry Ford Hospital is served off of dual feeds, one from Malta and one from Macomb. There's fed off distribution level voltage right now. And so it's basically taking up capacity that is used for distributing power to residents as well as businesses like the hospital. Two benefits to doing this project are this hospital will be fed, Henry Ford will be fed directly off the 120 kV. That's going to increase reliability for the hospital because there's less equipment needed to step down that voltage along the way to get it there. So there's less failure points, right? The second thing is you see the huge area that this serves. That accounts for over 6 megawatts of power that is going to be available for Clinton Township to use for other businesses and other homes and new construction. That's roughly a small power plant. We had an old 10 megawatt power plant, Harbor Beach, up in the Thumb. That's a very vast amount of power that's going to be available for Clinton Township to use as it goes forward. So those are the two main benefits from a community perspective that we see for this project. And you see there the bullet points. It's going to increase system stability because it's going to be more reliable for Henry Ford. And that extra capacity not only is going to allow for new businesses to use it, but it decreases stress at Malta and Macomb. So those two substations, Macomb especially, could really benefit from having less power on it at this time. So it's going to have better reliability for area residents, for the hospital, and there's going to be increased capacity available. So and so we're here in support of ITC in this matter. So if there's any questions for me, I'm happy to take them.
Mr. Kress?
I don't have a question specifically for you. I mean, this is the packet right here. And it's interesting that you said there's two benefits. And I think you're absolutely correct. I think there are only two benefits. And none of them benefit obviously, power for the area. But as far as our tax-paying residents along 19 Mile Road, 19 isn't an industrial corridor. 19 is a residential corridor. We've got, we got businesses. We got fast food at the corner. I know that gentleman spoke at your planning meeting. He doesn't have a problem with it, but the residents do. And I'm not saying that plant doesn't need a feed. I think it's presumptuous to put it there. It's unsightly. It's right there on the corner. Like I said, presumptuous that we would someday give you this approval. I don't mind feeding the station, but I listened to the planning meeting, and one of the options was going underground. And unless we can come up with a plan to go underground, I'm going to vote against it because of the health concerns. I know they spoke against it. I know that they denied the health aspects, but it's unsightly. And like I said, it's already bad enough we've got telephone poles on the south side, but now we're going to have huge telephone poles on the north side. We're going to clear out all the mature trees, and we're going to replace them with a 3-foot brick wall. And there's questions to the fund and how we're going to fund it and whose responsibility it is going to be to restore the wall. I just think it's bullying by a couple billion-dollar corporations to do that to our residents.
Thank you, Trustee Kress. I'm going to turn it over to...
This is not audience participation. You're welcome to speak.
I'm going to, as to the undergrounding portion, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Esty or Mrs. Stump to address that, because I think there was some issues with that.
Sorry.
I have some questions.
Okay.
Do you want me to approach for questions, or I didn't know if there was a question?
Do you have a
there,
question
or
of the
was-
gentleman who just spoke, Paul?
No,
We should let us finish the presentation.
Yeah. Finish your presentation.
I think it's good.
That concludes our presentation, Supervisor.
Yeah.
I guess if can I ask her a question?
She hasn't spoke.
Okay, go right ahead.
No, I'm back as the representative of ITC. I just didn't know if the board would I didn't know if there was a question you wanted me to respond to, if I'm responding to you,
I don't have a
or
question.
how we wanted to do this tonight.
I have a question, sir. I have a question. Like I said, I watched the planning meeting, and one of the I mean, obviously there's different paths. Why it has to be down 19 and not through a back way off of Delcoma or something behind like Lakeside Village Apartments or something. I'm not exactly sure why the decision was made. That's way before I got here. But during the planning meeting, it was said that putting the lines underground was a possibility. It's not an impossibility. I know that there's hurdles to go over and that sort of thing, but for our taxpayers, for their property value, for their health and safety, I think that they should go underground. If it's going to go down 19 Mile Road, rather than hang an extension cord that powers the hospital, in front of all these people's homes, I mean, I think that if that is a possibility, and cost prohibitive is on you, it's not on us. But I think that it's very important. I don't mind powering that station. Like I said, it's unsightly. I looked on the GIS. I don't even know who the owner of it is. There's no owner listed for that pad where the power station is. I don't know if it's. Can you answer that? Who owns that property where the power station is?
Can I answer the other part
Go
first
right
before
ahead,
coming
please,
back?
please.
So what you're feeling is a very common sentiment that we get asked for many years. So when you talk about your taxpayers are our ratepayers. So as I said, all of us pay for electric transmission, and we do have a duty to be economically and reasonably feasible. Absolutely. So that is a priority, just as it is for you, and that is why undergrounding is not an option for all overhead transmission lines. So.
Let her finish. Okay.
So ITC does a routing study that reviews all possible routes. And I know that there was comments about the routing at the Planning Commission, and we've been working with the township, I believe since 2019, 2020, the conversations about this, where it's going to be located, how it's going to be located. When you have a route that is overhead feasible from a safety perspective, meets the National Electric Safety Code, we do pursue overhead transmission lines because it is the most economically feasible for all of us, because we are all ratepayers, we are all taxpayers. So that is the right thing to do. We do understand that it does make a visual difference, right? We know they're overhead, we know they're going to make a visual impact to the neighbors, and that's where we do try to work with the neighbors to come to a feasible option, because trees and transmission lines don't mix. We all remember the blackout of August 14th of 2003, one tree underneath the transmission line. We have to have reliable power. We have to have safe power. And in this instance, overhead transmission line is the option that is best because it can be safe and feasible.
You said something interesting. You said pursue. I like that word because you're just pursuing it. It's not a definite. I took the time to go to Cornwell Health, I think it's called, in Royal Oak. I drove past Crittenton. I drove past a number of hospitals. And in these communities, there's no such thing. I mean, I can't see you standing before a board in Birmingham or Royal Oak saying that you're gonna you're pursuing the cheap route and we've got to swallow it for whatever prohibitive reasons or whatever your explanation is. But like I said, other communities don't have it. You're asking us to do it. You don't have the support of our residents or taxpayers, and all of you people. I mean, you've got quite the team here. None of you live in Clinton Township. Our planner doesn't live in Clinton Township. I live in Clinton Township, and I represent the constituents of Clinton Township. I took the time on Saturday to knock on doors in the condo complex. There's 12 units that are directly affected by this. And surprise, surprise, not one of those people wanted that outside their window. They didn't want the depreciation of their home. They didn't want their landscaping torn up. They didn't want the safety concerns. We can talk all night about high tension wires and the health risks and that sort of thing. I mean, we're taking power lines, running them down 19, making it look like an industrial corridor that could potentially cause health concerns to power a cancer clinic. That's just crazy that we're going to expose the people down 19 so that we can we're concerned about the health at the hospital of cancer patients.
Well, you mean expose them to the wires?
Yeah.
Okay, but not to any disease.
No, not disease.
Okay.
But
It sounded like you were
the
saying
disputable
expose.
health concerns of high tension
It's
wires.
just the
and such.
irony of it.
Do you want me to address the
Yeah,
health
you can.
issue? I just didn't know.
Whatever you'd like.
Again, I was trying to understand if you were asking a
yes.
question or if you were just, because.
Because like you said pursue. You said pursue this way.
Well, let her
Correct.
speak.
Okay.
In regards to your health questions, and in the documentation and other things you can read things everywhere, right?
Yep.
So ITC does believe transmission lines are safe. We build transmission lines across the state of Michigan and across the Midwest, as well as other utilities across the country build high voltage electric transmission lines because they are safe. With us today, we do have our expert. If you would like to ask specific questions about that, or if you want to review some of the studies, Gordy Halt is here as our senior staff engineer to discuss those, but I don't know if that's a question or if you're just, it's a very common sentiment, and I absolutely hear you.
It's a generalization of perceived common knowledge, and we could talk about it all night. The health concerns, pros. I don't have an expert on my side saying that there are concerns, whereas you have an expert saying that it's
Right.
safe as safe as can be. I'm just back to my original point. You're pursuing above ground. I have no problem with underground, so that it does not affect property values, health, safety, landscaping, zoning. I don't understand why we're getting the cheap alternative and other communities don't have to do that.
Excuse me. Thank you.
You're welcome. If you want,
He's allowed to speak and she's allowed to speak. This is not a cheering section. We want information so the board can make a decision when we're done, period.
Right.
So please stop doing that.
Steve, Mr. Cannon, are you Supervisor
Yes.
Cannon? Sorry, are you comfortable if Steve
Yes.
addresses the question too?
Yeah, so I just want to elaborate a little bit, and I think you watched the Planning Commission. It sounded like
yes, I do.
Okay, so we talked about a lot more than just the cost. I mean, the cost does get passed on to the ratepayers. It's 10 times more expensive than putting it overhead. That's a concern and an issue, obviously, for everybody. But the bigger issue, even than that, and we talked about this extensively, was this is a massive, massive underground construction that would have to occur.
Yep.
Shutting down the road, taking out all of the landscaping would still have to come out. It's more difficult to maintain, it's more difficult and longer to construct. You're talking probably 2 to 3 times longer to construct underground than overhead. And frankly, now, today, as we expand our electrical grid, these electrical overhead systems are ubiquitous. They're everywhere. I live in Plymouth. They're in Plymouth. I live in Farmington Hills. They come right down in front of our office. I mean, we have to get electricity. We have to get it in a way that's viable. We did an extensive route study here. We met with staff. We looked at all of their additional routes. We sat in a back room with all of the key people, went through each of those routes, and it was concluded at the end of that discussion, it was concluded that everybody agreed this was the feasible and prudent route for this particular line. Now, we can't put them in other locations, and we've looked at that, and that's what the route studies examined. There's issues with eagle permits, there's issue with wetlands. And as you start to extend it all through different areas, you extend the length of the line. There's many factors. They spent over 2 years planning how this line could be installed for this hospital. We're now 1 year to 2 years behind. And the project is critical to not just this area, but to the hospital itself, which is important. Everybody wants a reliable hospital that can provide services. So we did look at underground, and we looked at it extensively. It wasn't the right thing to do. It would have cost everybody here a lot more money because we don't pay for it. We pass it on to the ratepayers. That's how it works. Whatever our project costs gets passed on to the ratepayers. And so at the end of the day, we're making decisions as a good steward of electricity transmission throughout the state. We have obligations to MISO, to FERC, to NERC. We have obligations to be good and good operators of the system, and we do all of that with very extensive planning. And so it's not just like somebody sat down on a map and just went here and here. They didn't do that, and that's why we've worked very hard with the community and staff and Jack to get a plan in place that provides replacement landscaping, replacement masonry walls. We fund it all. We're paying for it all. We're putting it all in. We talked afterwards, and the plan is, if this is approved, we're going to go and first ask permission of the landowners to plant and install all of this. If they don't give it to us, we're going to go to the court and ask them to do it because we have to be able to make the plan fulfilled that's approved. And we can't plant landscaping if a landowner says you can't plant it. Now, we're happy to put a pot of money into the township and have them hold it and have landowners get it. But Jack and I have discussed this at length with staff.
Jack is
They
Mr.
want
Dolan,
us-
our attorney.
Oh, I understand that, but we've been instructed, if the plan's approved, you must construct it the way it's approved. So the only way we can do that is if we can construct it.
Let him finish. Let him finish.
Are you done?
Do you have anything else on that topic?
That's all I've got on the underground.
It's again, it's interesting. You said that you met in a room here, in a back room here.
It wasn't a back room, it was your conference room.
The conference
Don't
room.
start that.
No, I mean,
We don't
that's
have
exactly
back
what I'm
rooms that
doing.
we meet in.
Whatever was said in that room was not available to these taxpayers. Whatever was said, whatever decision was made, whatever plan was most feasible, most affordable, they were not involved in that process. So here we are today, they're involved in the process. I represent them. I understand who you're representing. I understand you're fighting for them. That's fantastic. But the fact of the matter is that our residents, our taxpayers don't want it. And there is a plan B. There is a way to do it without coming down with exposed wires 50 feet from living space. And from what I understand, the easement is 150 feet. So
Correct.
if there's 150 from the curb towards the house, there's another 150 towards the center of the road.
No.
You wouldn't even have to touch the
That's not the way it
trees.
is, so.
Well, you know what?
Yep.
Let's stop for a minute because I think he's going the same way again. He doesn't want it. There's no question about it.
Yeah, we're not gonna
Represents some
convince you.
people who
I
don't want
understand.
it. That's fine. I mean, that's what this is all about. Mr. Gilliam, you now have the floor.
Thank you. So I'm going to throw this out there, and if ITC wants to take it or if our planning director wants to take it, but there seems to be a lot of discussion on the what, and we need to do this for the hospital. But the way in which we do it is the part that I think we're focused on, and I think our residents are focused on. So yes, we understand the hospital needs more power. We understand that we need to improve and upgrade the grid and make sure that power is reliable. No quarrel with that. I think we're all in agreement. When did this discussion begin that the hospital needed more power and this improvement in any form had to be made?
So I'm going to explain the overall process. When a customer,
Well, if you could just answer my question, when did the process begin
Right. So that's what
that
I
the
just-
hospital needed more power?
Right.
Hospital's a customer.
right, so that's what I was trying to say. So the customer, Henry Ford, is a customer of DTE, so I need to request that DTE come up and help answer that question. I can tell you DTE reached out to ITC in approximately 2019, because I remember it was pre-COVID. We had the conversations, and then we were discussing this during COVID. And so at that time, we engaged with the township approximately 2020. And as Steve Esty mentioned, at that time, the ordinances did not preclude that. At that time, the ordinances would not have required us to be in front of here. There was a change in the essential service description. And at that point, we'd been working with staff and been reviewing the options through all that time. And so due to the recent update of the essential services ordinance, and Steve would 2023 was the change in ordinances.
Okay, so, all right, so
Yeah.
you've been.
So at least from
You're working with
2019
the
from
hospital,
ITC
you're working with
standpoint.
DTE.
And the
you're working
township.
as ITC. So then a plan was developed. When was that plan brought to the township?
In 2019, 2020 from ITC standpoint. And I'm not Henry Ford. Their master site plan with a substation would have come before that. Same time frame.
Bruce, you're in agreement with that?
No.
Mr. Thompson?
Okay, can you elaborate?
I can. To my recollection, the first time that we sat down in conference room 200 and had those discussions, and there were staff members available, our township attorney, was right after the new year. I believe it was in February or March of '24. I don't recall any conversations in 2020 with
So this
ITC.
plan started in 19 and it came to the township in 2024. And so would you characterize those discussions as, hey, here's our plan, township,
Presumptuous.
we'd like you to approve it?
I'm
Is
I'm
that-
not sure,
is that a
I
fair-
guess, I
Did
mean,
they come with an existing plan when they came to us?
yes,
Okay, and that plan is what we see here today, is that correct?
partially.
Partially with the addition of some additional landscaping, some additional
Right, the site plans, the
improvements,
landscape plans,
things
correct.
of that nature.
Correct.
Okay. So, at any point, did the township try to offer any type of alternative? To say,
Yes.
hey, this main transmission line goes northeast, through the back of neighborhoods and condo associations, and we think we could come in less intrusively than right along the roadway on 19 Mile Road and catch that new station. And what was the response?
So I believe it was in July, if I remember correctly, that we did meet with them again in conference room 200. Prior to that, there was certainly discussion among the staff and the township attorney to look at the possibility of alternatives. I can't recall, Mary, maybe you can, the number of them that we came up with. I think it was 4. But we presented what we felt as an administration, possible alternate routes.
Okay.
And part of that was the discussion of underground or partially underground. There were a number of conversations that were held back and forth regarding that. Their response was, I guess, similar to what Mr. Esty told you just now, is they looked at all those routes that we proposed. And our GIS coordinator put some nice maps together based on our discussion. So I think we had some good information. That I think really what we heard is what Mr. Esty said this evening, and that
Too expensive.
too expensive. This is the most efficient and practicable way for them to do it.
Okay. And did they provide any documentation or verification or engineering review that said, hey, we've analyzed all these plans? Because you said, they told you, we've analyzed it, right? This is what it's going to cost here. This is what it's going to cost here. Did they provide you any documentation that sort of like helped to quantify the claims that these other alternative routes are too expensive?
I do not have anything specific, no.
So you weren't provided anything?
That is correct. There was some discussion, I believe there were some images that were shown to us about the underground alternative, what it takes, the amount of land that it takes up. I don't recall the
Yeah.
exact images, but there was no study or report given to
So
my office.
I'm out of my depth.
Yeah.
If I'm saying, hey, underground or overhead or wherever, what I know and what I'm hearing you tell me is that alternative routes were proposed and the response was, hey, that's too expensive. But they didn't provide you any numbers.
I guess to clarify, the expensive was the underground. So
Okay.
I'd like to separate that. I think that when we looked at alternative routes, not unlike what Mr. Esty said, there are different things to consider when you look at different routes. Some routes, maybe there was potential of wetlands being in the way. Other routes cutting across to the west, you would potentially impact more residents versus less residents.
Why did we offer those alternative routes?
Because we felt it was in the best interest of the community to do so.
And why did we, was it a consideration that this would be less intrusive and better peeling, better traffic-wise, better,
Aesthetics.
how the whole thing looks?
Well, I
what were the
guess I
considerations?
can't speak for everybody that was in that room from an administrative standpoint, but I think ultimately the recommendation that was made from the administration was based upon what we felt was a practicable answer. We make a recommendation. We're not making that decision. We can only, as an administration, like any other special land use request, take the information that we're given and make our best recommendation on that. Planning commissions and township boards obviously generate more information and more
Because we don't run a
questions.
power grid.
Correct.
We have to rely on people that do.
Right.
Do you believe that the consideration of those alternative routes were given a fair review?
They listened. We sat in that meeting, and I think that they did listen, yes. But again, like you said, Mr. Gilliam, I'm not a power provider, right? I can't tell you as an individual that one way is cheaper than the other. At some point, we have to move ahead with the information that we're given.
Okay, all right. So this is being approved as an extreme essential services, right? Or it's being proposed
It's being requested.
to be approved.
It's being requested
to
as
be
an
approved.
extreme essential service.
Okay, and in that ordinance, line 3, 1250, or rather subsection 3, where reasonably possible, compliance with setbacks and building frontage lines shall occur.
Shall.
Okay, does it occur in this case?
I think that it's reasonable, yes, given the potential of other routes that were looked at. I think when we looked at routes that were the potential to the north, and then you cut across the west, what they would be doing is cutting through and having residences on both sides. And so, in essence, it had the potential to create more impact on a great deal more residents. In the case of being on 19 Mile, you've got the road on one side and a smaller amount of residents along on the north side.
So it also says extreme essential services shall be located in areas to minimize the impact upon residentially zoned or occupied areas within 300 feet or 5 times the height of the proposed major essential services, whichever is greater. Was that standard met?
It was not literally met, no.
Okay.
It was met as practicable as possible, given the information that they gave us. That's what was considered.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Anything else to add?
If I may, just briefly. So I was at the meeting, and I obviously there's different recollections of it. I'm not suggesting that the way that it was conveyed here is inaccurate, but I do think there was a little bit more discussed at the meeting. We talked about wetlands, the struggles that we've had with a lot of the changes in Eagle right now throughout the state in terms of getting permitting for transmission over wetlands. We talked about the flight path to the hospital and the impact of that if the line were to move. ITC likes to try to work with communities. That's why we had all these meetings. That's why we put this landscaping in place. That's why we've worked very hard to get to the point we're here. The alternative for us is to go through what we call Act 30. And if we go through Act 30, it's a year-long process, exactly. And they give us a certificate if we were to get one. And that certificate trumps your local ordinance. That's not the direction we like to go. We're in a place here where we planned everything with staff. We've worked hard with staff. We worked hard with staff and council. And if we were to have to go back to the drawing board and do something like underground, it would be 2 to 3 times longer than it would be to go through Act 30 to get this project in place. And that's not something that the companies or Henry Ford will be prepared to do. I mean, they are operating now with a deficient electric system. This community could be impacted by it as well as capacity shortages increase around the state. That's why we're trying to bring online generation everywhere. So
that really sounds like a threat, though.
It's not a threat. It's not a threat.
Excuse me, Mr. Gilliam.
We are
He's got the
obligated.
floor. He's got the floor.
With all due respect, trustee, we are obligated, okay, to provide the interconnection to DTE. And we have to do whatever we can to get that done. We're way behind schedule. It's not a threat. It's a practical reality of where we're at. We relied on the meetings we had with the township and their staff. We relied on the process to get to where we're at. And now we're at the finish line and we're being told, go back and start again from scratch.
No, if I can clarify.
No, you may not.
He's saying.
You may not.
But
Let him
he's-
finish.
I'm just telling you the
characterizing
practical.
my comments, and I want to correct.
I'm just
Well,
telling you the
I'll help correct some of those too.
I'm just telling you the practical reality of where we're at as an applicant, okay? We have to do what we can do to get this line constructed, period. And we've worked very hard with the township over 4 years to get to where we're at today.
Okay, may I respond?
No. Mike, I want to ask you a question, please. You have to come to the microphone. You're representing the hospital. You've been there a long time. What my big concern is the hospital. How, if we deny this, is it going to affect patients, service?
Sure. So as it was described, this is an engineered project. There was a question earlier about the substation, and it's unsightly nature, so on and so forth. That was part of our master site plan. So it's been part of our planning and master site plan for a period of time. How it looks and all that I can't speak to. It's not my area of expertise, but it's been part of the plan. To actually operate the hospital, which is what I do every single day, with and without power, when we have a power outage, right now, our engineering plan is not complete. We don't have the feeds via the substation to complete our engineering plan. So we've had to make alternative plans to do that. That means when it comes into we don't have the power coming to the substation and coming per plan to our actual powerhouse. So we've had to make alternatives to actually run the hospital. So the hospital is not running as designed. From our engineer,
So it's affecting service to your patients.
It has the potential to. When we have an impact on power, if we lose power, we don't have enough power, it can impact surgical services, it can impact our cath lab, it impacts how we receive EMS. Patients who come in by EMS, we have to tell them we don't have those services available if that happens. So that's what we have to do. Now we've made we've made plans along with this engineering plan to have the power come to our substation and then into our powerhouse. We've added 5 emergency generators, but you all know if you have generators at your home, you cannot sustain yourself for a long period of time on generators. That's not what they're designed for. So it's not a practical solution for us for the long haul. It does impact our ability to deliver care when we don't have the right power, yes.
Thank you. I'm not done. I started off by saying I wasn't happy with ITC. I've listened many times to our planning director and other staff members, and I've not been happy with how you've dragged your feet. And every time this came up, you kept saying they're going to drag it to the very end when it's an emergency. And we've got to make a decision. Oh, by the way, this is an emergency. Anybody who doesn't think it's an emergency is wrong. The hospital is my number one concern. ITC, I'm not happy with the way you conducted your business. I'll be the first to say it, and I'll say it many times. On the other hand, you're the one who's given us the service to make that hospital a success and to make our entire community a success. So I'm going to let people speak because it's an election year, and I'll let them say what they want to say. But we have to somehow get power to that hospital. We can't put this off forever. We talked about going underground. We talked about going through Macomb Community College's properties. We talked about a lot of different things that didn't work out. And by the way, ITC did listen while we were talking. They didn't act, but they listened. So, Mr. Kress, you have the floor, then Mr. Gilliam.
The last time you spoke, you talked about expansion. Is that correct? You said that there's plan for expansion.
Sure, we have a master plan.
And that substation supports your future expansion, correct?
Correct. It has the potential to. So on our campus, we go from we front 19 Mile Road, we go to Garfield. We have some properties. We have properties there. All around that substation is vacant. So if we ever decide to expand, it has the potential to supply that, yes.
Yeah. Don't misunderstand. I'm sure none of the board members, I don't want to speak for them. We have no problem with the hospital. We love that you're here, and we want to make sure that you get the power you need.
You're the biggest employer in the community.
But the people that are supplying you are going about it the wrong way. It's not your fault.
Thank you.
Paul?
Okay. Just to clarify, we need power to the hospital. We started talking about it in 2019. We brought it to Clinton Township with an already put together plan, the only one that we're going to consider, and we're going to reject everything beyond that particular plan. I think there was too many preconceived notions on this, and not enough looking at the alternatives. And as a result of that, we're now we're on fire, and we have to put the fire out, so we can't look at any of the underlying reasons that caused the fire.
May I, through the chair, up until 2023, and it was in October of 2023, which is basically 2024, we're at the end of 2023, essential services were permitted use by right. And that's true in most all communities. In fact, it's very rare that ITC has to go into a community and provide a site plan for their transmission lines. Almost no utility has to do that for infrastructure, because essential service ordinances around the state exempt them for obvious reasons. Nobody likes infrastructure projects, period. In 2024, when we recognized the impact that this was going to have with this extreme essential service ordinance, which was adopted because of some water tower issue, not because of us, we then started communicating with the township, because we realized, you know what, this whole process is changing now. We're going to have to go through this additional process. And we worked diligently with them repeatedly through multiple meetings, multiple plans, changes in those plans, meetings with Henry Ford, meetings with DTE. I realize you weren't present at all those meetings, but that's the way the process works. I've been doing land use and zoning for 25 years,
Okay.
and it works that way.
Be
You work with
specific.
staff first, then you come to the boards. And staff makes recommendations, which they did, to approve the project. And we went to the plan. We followed the process exactly as it's carried out in every community. You meet with staff, you work with staff, staff presents, staff makes a recommendation, you go to planning commission takes it then to the board, and the board makes a decision. And so we're here on the normal civil process that we follow in every community where we have to.
Paul, may I interject? Because you have the floor.
By all means, I surrender.
And that's why I started out by saying, I'm not happy with ITC. I'm happy that you provide power to our community, to the whole state, and you do a good job at that, but you guys are bullies.
We're not bullies.
Mr. Cannon.
I don't want any help.
Mr. Cannon.
I have my own opinions, and I have a reason for my opinions. What I want is for this project to be completed so Henry Ford can continue to service our residents and expand as necessary and provide jobs and service for all the thousands of people that come every month.
So, Mr. Cannon, I am disappointed that you're saying that, because ITC has had a long conversation and long partnership with Clinton Township. You
There's no question about it.
Right, and you
But not
referenced
on this
our-
project.
I would disagree. So the
Well,
plans,
then we can
the
disagree.
plans, right? Well, that's where the ordinance is such a key thing with that essential ordinance, because we did have conversations. We did have conversations with your deputy supervisor when we even started discussing this project. Once we heard about it from Henry Ford and DTE, there were conversations with staff, but there was nothing required. There were no plans presented, and I think that's where those date conversations come in. The plans being discussed versus conversations. So when that ordinance changed, so ITC is a member of the community. We talked to many people at different events, but those plans were presented when the ordinance changed, and that is what Steve is referencing.
Let me tell you something.
So, but we are a
I
proud
like
member
your
of the
company.
community.
You provide service. You provide power.
We're
But
the
now
grid.
you're not being forthright.
I would challenge
entirely.
that, because I think
don't
we are.
think so. I'm going to vote yes for your project because we need that power for that hospital. I don't know who else is or isn't. And I don't know what's going to happen if we don't vote for that project, because it's going to hurt the hospital and hurt Clinton Township.
Mr. Cannon.
Jill, you have the floor.
Thank you. We did the original ordinance in,
Could you just go to your mic a little
Oh,
closer?
I'm sorry.
There's echoing behind you. Thank you.
we did the original ordinance because of a water tower that was not going to be in harmony with the neighborhood. And we were concerned about that, and we wanted some input into that process. That's why we passed this ordinance. It, however, applies in this case as well. The special land use approval says that in order to approve this, we have to meet the following conditions, which includes the proposal shall be of such location, size, and character that it will be in harmony with the neighborhood. This is not in harmony with the neighborhood. It just isn't. And I am a firm believer if this was in Birmingham or in Grosse Pointe, we would not, our residents would not see this eyesore in front of their houses. Now, I want Henry Ford to have power. That's my health system. That's where I go. But I do think that there is a major difference between stringing these poles along 18 Mile, right there where the world will see them and where the residents are going to look out their window, their bedroom window, and see them. And I think that is the issue here. I will be voting no on this.
May I just comment? May I just ask the?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I was just gonna.
She's entitled as a board member to make
Absolutely.
her comments. Mr. Keys, you have the floor.
You know, actually, Trustee Matuzak said it pretty well. I do agree with that. I don't want people leaving the meeting thinking all the township board members have tinfoil hats.
Right.
I don't have a concern that our residents are not safe with these going up in the community. Living underneath them or near them, I'm not convinced that there's a health hazard or anything like that. But as Trustee Matuzak said, I believe I've heard from enough residents that these are not in harmony with what the community wants. So thank you, Mr. Cannon.
Yep.
Thank you,
Ms.
Mr.
Nelson?
Cannon. So is there a legal definition of what is harmony?
Is what?
What is harmony? What is the legal definition of harmony? I mean, when you say, and the other part of that is if what we're doing here is, you kind of just going through the motions, basically asking, I'm actually talking to legal right now. You're going through the motions of coming here. The essential services is defined and spelled out, so therefore you've jumped through those hoops, if you will, meeting us and communicating. But it doesn't really matter, I think is what you're saying, because you're still gonna do whatever you wanna do, because you basically said you were gonna ask the homeowners if they say no, then we're gonna take them to court. So, I mean, what?
No, they're already in court.
Okay, so, well, I'm just regurgitating what you just had said.
Well,
that you
let
were
her
gonna-
finish.
But my point is, you know, if, as Trustee Matuzak stated, we're not in harmony, what is that definition? What does that mean, not in harmony? That we disagree, or what does that mean?
So electric infrastructure, just like roads, are always in harmony with their communities, because they have to be put in places, they have to be put in places that may not be amenable to everybody. They have to go somewhere, right? And that's also why the company has the power of eminent domain. And so there's 6 properties that are at issue. Those 6 properties are already all in court. Every project that I've worked on for 18 plus years, generally you get about 50% voluntary and 50% that you need to use eminent domain. I don't know why it shakes out like that, but it just does. I can tell you on projects from 15 parcels to projects with 600 parcels. So we go to eminent domain. The property owners are entitled to just compensation. But the issue precisely of what we need to go to court for on a motion in those cases is to allow us to fulfill these curative measures to keep the properties in conformity with zoning. And so all we'd be asking the court to do is to allow us to plant what the township board has approved.
Okay, so the fact that it's not in harmony doesn't mean that everybody's happy or
No.
not happy. It doesn't mean that at all, is what I'm saying. So when we say this project is not in harmony, it's not necessarily accurate.
I don't believe it's accurate at all, no. And again, I think it was mentioned Birmingham, somebody said something about Birmingham, and in Birmingham, we wouldn't need to do this because it'd be an essential service. So we'd be able to build it. That's the problem, is that we're doing our best to go through this new ordinance, which only requires that we do what everybody's asking us to do where reasonably practicable. And we've met with staff and we've talked about the fact that it's not reasonably practicable. We've gone through and explained reasons for that. I've tried to explain them here as well. If that's the issue that's holding up this board, if that's the issue and you want more detail on routing, how we came to those decisions, and you want to evaluate that further, we'll get you that. We'll provide that. table it. We'll get you that information at the next meeting. But if it's more than that and it's just, we'll never approve it here, then just deny us and we'll take whatever actions we need to do from here to get the line built.
Okay, then I would like to make a motion to postpone this. I would like more information, and that's my motion, to postpone to the next board meeting.
Support. To postpone?
Postpone.
That's just to remind everybody, we are in a sort of an unusual condition. Typically, our meetings are every 2 weeks, but we're actually meeting within a week. So whatever motion you make, keep in mind that we have a short window between now and the next meeting.
Is it for the next meeting, Mrs. Meltzer, or for 3 weeks down the road?
Next.
For next year.
Well, we could do 3 weeks. Yeah, we could do 3 weeks down the road. So it would be.
Mr. Gillingham, do you support that?
So that would be.
Support the 3 week.
We
Yeah,
have
that
a
would be
motion
the
to
21st.
postpone
21st.
for
The
3
21st.
weeks so we can get additional information. We are not going to take any more information on this topic. We beat it to death.
No public input?
Call the question.
Roll call, please.
Hold on for a second, Mr. Cannon.
No, I'm not going to hold on. I'm not going to hold on.
I apologize for that terminology. I think we should make sure that we
This is hers.
follow our procedure to allow public comment on the
No,
on the
public
agenda.
comment comes at the end of the meeting.
On the agenda item.
On the motion to postpone for 3 weeks.
Motion
Why
seconded.
or why
Take your
not
stuff.
should we postpone?
Okay.
Right.
Why or why not postpone? That's your comment.
Let me just say one final thing, Chair, if I could.
No, you may not.
Okay, thank you.
You'll have an opportunity to speak.
I don't want you to trip over that.
It may not be tonight.
There's good reasons not to just postpone. It's a matter of, there again, they said that this is going to cost a lot more money if they go underground. Well, and that the ratepayers will have to do it. Well, that's all of the electric company's ratepayers. So that means we in Clinton Township have paid for the underground wires at all of the different Henry Ford hospitals that aren't in Clinton Township, the Ascension hospitals that they're now aligned with that are not in Clinton Township. At Corwell Health, the planning commissioner, never there again, they met with our staff, and they really only started meeting with our staff after our law changed because of the water tower. Before that, they didn't care. They were just going to railroad us. And I think that you have to look today, in today's Free Press, it has an article about eminent domain for a power grid in Detroit. And what's funny is...
We're talking about the postponement.
I realize that, and this is why not to postpone. It's a matter of we Clinton Township residents have paid for the underground wires at all the other hospitals, much bigger hospitals than Henry Ford, that are not in Clinton Township. But then why shouldn't those ratepayers help pay for underground wiring in Clinton Township? We deserve it. And it is those power poles, as I showed in the videos that I put online, those poles are massive. They're not in harmony with the community.
Thank you.
And
you have the floor.
Once again, Fred Neenstedt. I'm in favor of postponing for the 3 weeks. I believe some of the discussion about this change in the grid and the support of communities. There is a large parcel that will be developed in the future, Lakeside. I would like to understand what the grid requirements will be potentially for this parcel. It's a very large development, and it's going to require some of the megawatts, perhaps, of this substation. And what would be the transmission line available for that? How much does all of our community require? I would like that to be part of the discussion 3 weeks from now.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Mrs. Meltzer, to postpone for 3 weeks.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Motion passes to postpone to October 21st.
We're going to take a 10-minute recess. So people who are here for that item can get out quietly so we can continue the meeting. Call this meeting of the Township Board back to order, please. We're going to talk about the disposition of township-owned properties, item 16.
So moved.
Now, would you let her read these things?
All right. On September 13th, 2024, the Clinton Township Property Disposition Committee reviewed multiple
Our meeting is back in order. If we could have your attention, please.
Folks,
reviewed multiple offers to purchase the Clinton Township-owned property as follows. Vacant lots on Sharkey Street, parcel number 16-11-35-308-018, -041 and -042. Recommendation to accept the bid of $3,000 and transfer with quitclaim deed contingent upon the township rezoning the property from OS1 to R5 and splitting the easterly 20 feet from parcel number 16-11-34-126-017, submitted by Giambanco Building Company. Vacant lot on Stevenson Street, parcel number 16-11-35-303-018. Recommendation to accept the bid in the amount of $1,000 and transfer with quitclaim deed submitted by Mr. Onario D'Agostini. We submit the recommendation for your consideration. Sincerely, Bruce Thompson, Director for the Department of Planning.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 17, approval of the board workshop for next year's budget.
I would like to schedule a workshop with the board members in attendance in person and/or remotely for the purpose of working with the finance director and department directors regarding next year's budget. This is an opportunity for the current board to have input concerning major capital spending, as well as other major budget issues that will be eventually presented to the newly elected board for a vote of approval. Candidates for all board positions have been invited to attend this meeting as well. The date to be approved is Monday, November 18th, 2024, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Conference Room 200 here at the Civic Center. The public will be notified of this meeting in the usual manner to comply with Michigan's Open Meeting Act. Thank you for your consideration, Robert Cannon.
Thank you. And it is an open meeting.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee
Yes.
excuse me. Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Motion passed.
Thank you. Item 18, SCADA system at the George Park fountains.
Okay. Is this,
This is a long letter.
yeah, is this, does this want, is this,
Mary,
Mary,
can
do
you
you want
summarize?
this?
Oh, I think we
correct?
should read the whole thing this time.
No.
Mike, Mike?
You can go sit out in the
Would you
hall.
like me to summarize it, Clerk Meltzer?
Did you want to sum up, or do you want me to read this?
I
mean, don't have a
can
problem
summarize
reading
it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sum up.
good.
We actually brought this to our Budget Ways and Means Committee to discuss. In a nutshell, we would like to add SCADA control, our supervisor control and data acquisition to our two fountains at George Park. Last winter, we had one of the sump pumps go out. We were not notified of it because we were not on the SCADA system, and it caused major damage to the fountain and to the electrical, which cost the township quite a bit of money plus an insurance claim. So we would like to basically install this so that we can have live monitoring. So if there's ever a problem, it would notify our on-call people who then could be able to get out and address the issue before there's any damage. We are asking for a waiver of the policy, our purchasing policy, because at this point, we use Motor City Electric, who is our current vendor for our SCADA system. If we were to bid this out, there's a couple things we'd have to go through a full engineering on it, and that would cost us some additional money. But on top of that, they would have to use Motor City to be able to actually coordinate it with talking to our SCADA. So they are familiar with our SCADA, they're familiar with doing this type of work. So we're asking to waive that policy, and we are asking to award the total project for $25,905, which also includes a contingency in.
So moved. And
Support.
with the waiver.
With the waiver. Support.
I forgot one other waiver, and that would be our building department who will have to do inspections.
And I agree to add that
And I
as part
still
of the
support.
motion.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Krass?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Item 19, request to approve cost-sharing agreement with the Macomb County Department of Roads to match funds for 14 mile from Kelly Road to Gratiot Avenue.
Dear honorable board members, the Macomb County Department of Roads and the City of Roseville are partnering with Clinton Township on the 14-mile rehabilitation project from Kelly Road to Gratiot Avenue. This project was part of the 2023 to 26 TIP projects previously submitted and supported by the Clinton Township Board of Trustees. The Macomb County Department of Roads is proposing to rehabilitate 14 Mile Road in the summer-fall of 2025 construction season following the MDOT local agency program schedule. This project was previously submitted in the 2023 to 2026 Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, through the Macomb County Federal Aid Committee, or FAC, and received the scoring needed to be eligible for funding. This portion of the road also scores as one of the highest in the Clinton Township Primary Road Scoring Matrix System established by the Establishing Quality Roads Subcommittee for Needed Road Improvements. The road rehabilitation project requires a 5% match from Clinton Township for construction costs, plus 25% of the Macomb County Department of Roads Engineering, inspection, and contract and administration costs. The remaining construction costs of this project would be funded with 80% federal funds, 10% Macomb County Department of Road funds, and 5% of City of Roseville funds. The remaining Macomb County Department of Road Engineering inspection and contract administration costs would be funded with 25% City of Roseville funds and 50% Macomb County Department of Road funds. The Macomb County Department of Roads provided a cost share agreement for Clinton Township. Share of the cost, the required match from Clinton Township is $462,000. The capital outlay budget will need to be updated to incorporate the most current estimates. Clinton Township Board approval is needed for the attached cost agreement, share agreement, and please contact us with any questions. Sincerely, Mary Bednar, Director of Public Services.
Thank you. Mrs. Benner, I know that we have to amend our budget for next year to the tune of $462,000. Is that correct?
Correct.
However, it'd be coming out of the
Infrastructure.
federal infrastructure.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. But that's not in the budget right now, so that'll be part of it.
Okay.
And what I'd like to say is thank you to the board if you approve this. I hope you do. This is the third project recently that we've done with other communities. Moravian Drive is one with Sterling Heights, and Kelly Road with Fraser is another, and this with Roseville is another great project between our communities. Mrs. Meltzer?
However, yeah, it sounds like a great project. However, I thought I read that it was cost prohibitive for us even.
I'm sorry.
Did I read that in an email? I thought I read something in.
Today's Macomb Daily.
Was it the
Mr.
Daily?
Cannon, if I can
forget
address
where I
that.
read
Okay.
it.
Well, I think it was written for engineers. Mrs. Bednar can interpret.
So in a nutshell, some people thought that 14 Mile Road was gonna get widened, similar to be the same width as 15 Mile Road.
Oh, yeah,
But
that's
this
right.
is,
A rehab.
that's what's not prohibited, or
that's
cost
right.
prohibited.
Right.
That's right.
So this is just a rehabilitation of the existing structure.
Correct.
Outline.
That's right.
So I make a motion
Thank
for
you.
approval,
Support.
That includes the budget amendment, correct?
which includes the budget amendment, yes.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Clerk Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
And now here's a real nice project for the community. Item 20, request to submit road pavement for McKishney.
Macomb County Department of Roads is providing funding for the subdivision reconstruction program for the 2025 construction year. No paving special assessment district or SAD petitions with more than 50% signatures were received by the Clinton Township Clerk's Office this year. Given these circumstances, the Clinton Township EQR Subcommittee and Department of Public Services identified a road segment on McKishney Street that needs new water main and is currently unsewered. A new sanitary sewer can be installed in the public right-of-way as a debt service sewer. Following the goals and best practices for asset management, which are outlined in the Township Strategic Plan and Water and Sewer Asset Management Plans, we determined that this segment would be able to utilize the SRP funds. So in order to repave the entire street based on the 50% incremental road repairs needed from these utility installations. The attached letter to the Macomb County Department of Roads provides additional details associated with this road funding submittal. Since half of the road is expected to be impacted by the installation of the new water main and sanitary sewer utilities, water and sewer funds expended on those incidental road repairs will be used as the 50% match for the road paving work. The attached submittal has been sent to the Macomb County Department of Roads for consideration, and we are requesting Township Board acceptance of this submittal. Please contact me with any questions related to this submittal. Thank you, Mary Bednar, Public Services Director. This is this is awesome. I'll make a motion to approve.
Support.
Thank you. Supported by Mr. Keys.
And then, yeah, just a comment, I just want to make sure there's going to be sidewalks on both sides of the street now with this improvement.
I'm not sure about that.
I do not believe that it includes the sidewalks. It just says the water and the brand new sanitary sewer, and then the road.
Ooh, I think that, because I did see in the preliminary estimate the sidewalk at 4 and 6, so that might be something different.
In order to do the sidewalks, we would actually have to use general fund monies for that because it has nothing to do with the water or the sanitary sewer.
And so have we looked at how much that would cost to use? So similarly, like we just use general fund dollars to buy the system at George Park.
So, right, so the grant would not include that. So right now, this is the submittal of the grant so that we can say we have support from the board. We can look at that in the future and then the board can make a decision on that the next time we bring it back as a project. But that would be considered like what's the word I'm looking for? It would be 100% on the township to do that.
I think it's something we should really look into. This is a street that could really use it. Neither side of the street has sidewalks in some areas. Some of the houses do have a couple pieces of sidewalks. So, I mean, it's really the sidewalks to nowhere in some cases. Obviously, we use general fund money in other cases, and I think this is a prime example where we could really enhance a project. So
Again, we'll have to look at it because of the limited right-of-way and drainage. We want to make, we're first and foremost is making sure it drains.
Yeah.
But we can look at it and then the board can talk about it at that point.
Okay, thank you.
I don't disagree. I think that we should look at it at least one side of the road, Mike.
Yeah.
Mr. Cannon?
It would really enhance the neighborhood.
Is there an opportunity for a safe routes to school grant funding on something like that? Because isn't there a school near there that would help with?
It would be Rainbow, which you're
Right.
That's okay, but I mean, that's still gonna be.
Recently, Rainbow is now early childhood development, so I don't think that would count. And I also don't know if it's, there's proximities for safe walk, and so I think Finley but I don't even think Rainbow qualifies anymore.
All right. Okay. We can look into it.
Okay,
I'm ready.
ready?
Clerk Meltzer, yes. Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, now a real boring one. Request for bid award, sewers, except for the people that need the sewers.
On June 5th, 2024, the Charter Township of Clinton's Clerk's Office received and processed bids for a total of 9 bidders for the above referenced project, which included various alternates. Estimates for the various water main improvements options were similar in cost, thus several bid alternates were provided. AEW prepared separate plan sets for the 3 water main replacement bid alternatives, which are described in the attached bid tabulations. Upon review and tabulation of the bids submitted with three separate alternatives provided, the low bidder was FER-PAL Construction USA LLC of Taylor, Michigan, in the bid total amount of $2,731,499 with selected alternative of cure in-place lining of the existing water main. A copy of that final bid tabulation is attached with this letter. The project primarily consists of the CIPP rehabilitation of an existing 16-inch diameter transmission water main along the east side, south side of South Nunley Road from Groesbeck Highway to Kelly Road. Several areas also include open cut and horizontal directional drilling installations. This improvement will replace a 65-year-old 16-inch diameter cast iron water main for improved water system reliability along this existing transmission main. As a condition of the bid requirements Prospective bidders were required to be pre-qualified in the respective installation alternative categories. At Ferd-Pal Construction USA LLC provided the necessary pre-qualification information to be considered for bid award. The bid results for all three alternatives were reviewed with the Director of Public Services and Township personnel. Based upon the bids submitted and conditions noted above, we recommend that the South Nunley Road water main replacement, Groesbeck Highway to Kelly Road, be awarded to Ferd-Pal Construction USA LLC located at 26187 North Line Road, Taylor, Michigan 48180 in the amount of $2,731,499. Sincerely, Scott Chabot, Project Manager with AEW.
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Who made the support, Julie? Thank
Julie,
you.
yes.
Trustee Keys.
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak.
Yes.
Trustee Patton.
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon.
Yes.
Trustee Kraus.
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam.
Yes.
Clerk Metzler, yes. Motion passed.
Thank you. Item 22, request adoption of resolution permanently relocating polling from Rainbow to Clintondale High School.
As we just discussed, per MCL 168-, .662, the legislative body in each municipality shall provide a suitable polling place for each precinct located in the municipality for use on Election Day. Precinct 40, Rainbow Elementary, has hosted the elections for us previously. Due to the school transforming from an elementary school to an early childhood development daycare facility, we are no longer able to use their facility. We have consulted with Clintondale Schools, and they have approved the use of the high school to host Precinct 40. Their address is 35,200 Little Mac Avenue. This change will be in effect for the upcoming November general election and all future elections. The appropriate notice and map acknowledging this change will be sent to all voters in Precinct 40 by United States Postal Service mail. In addition, and according to election law, notice will be posted at the Rainbow Elementary location informing voters of the new location. We will also be mailing new voter ID cards to those affected by this change, and I'm requesting approval from the Honorable Board. Sincerely, Kim Meltzer, Clerk.
Make a motion for approval.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Clerk Metzler, yes. Motion passes. And
Thank you. Item 23, request approval of compensation increase for the Personnel Director.
Dear members of the board, as you are aware, the Employee Civil Service Commission, through the Personnel Director, is responsible for implementing rules and regulations covering personnel and conditions of employment for all positions in the classified services. This includes establishing minimum requirements for all positions, job reclassification determinations, filling vacancies, developing and administering competitive testing, establishing and maintaining eligibility lists for hiring and promotion, maintaining an employee performance evaluation system, conducting exit interviews, maintaining all classified employee personnel files, supervising hiring of temporary employees from professional staffing organizations, as well as other related classified service employee matters. Pursuant to state statute, Civil Service and Townships 246 Public Act 1965, Section 5.193, Parent 5, the Civil Service Commission ordinance, the Civil Service Commission shall select a personnel director whose compensation shall be fixed by the commission, subject to approval of the Township Board. For the past 16 years, Lisa Murray has served in this capacity, which requires a bachelor's degree in human resources or a related field. A review of Township collective bargaining agreements reveals that the personnel director's annual compensation of $82,000 on average is $36,000 less than other township directors, and even more concerning, $19,000 less than township assistant directors. Based upon the foregoing, subject to the board's approval, it is the commission's intention to fix the annual compensation for the personnel director at $107,000 per year. The amount corresponds with the lowest paid director. It has been many years since the commission has reviewed the compensation for our director. It is now time to bring that compensation up to date. Respectfully submitted, the Civil Service Commission, Robert Butler, John Russi, and Eric Jackson.
So moved.
Support.
We're not going to vote yet. Gentlemen, can you tell us where the money's going to come from? You want to pay an additional this much money to it? Well, like 50, is it $35,000 or $55,000 more?
It is.
It's a lot. It's a lot of money.
Huge amount.
A huge amount of money. So,
My name is
please.
Robert Butler. I'm the presently I'm the chairman of the Civil Service Commission. It's our job to set the compensation.
No, it's your set to recommend the
No,
compensation.
it's our job to set. It's your job to either fund or not fund.
Okay, right.
That's your prerogative.
Okay, right.
But our job is to set. Okay, I've been in the commission for 25 years, and this is the first time we've reviewed the compensation of that position.
So it's been at $80,000 since you started that many years back?
Well, no, it wouldn't have been an 80,000 because there would have been some, whatever, the cost of living allowances that you
how did it get to $80,000?
Pardon me?
How did it get to $80,000? How did her salary get to $80,000?
How does it what?
How did her salary get to $80,000?
How did it get there?
All these years.
I wasn't a part of the process.
Well, but you are part of the process.
No, I wasn't a part of the process to get it at 80. What I'm telling you, it hasn't been reviewed for over 25 years.
It has been reviewed. It's been reviewed every several years with our personnel.
It's never been reviewed by the commission.
Well, by the commission.
Exactly.
So the three of you are going to recommend to this board that we have to pay that much more money to an employee of the township?
We're not recommending that you have to do anything. We're setting her pay scale at that, which we believe is fair. It would be a increase for less than $1,000 a year from which he is now over 25-year period. We're not asking for back pay.
That's not true. She's had increases since that time. Many increases. Many.
Those were
Mr. Butler,
what you would call cost of living increases of 1 or 2% a year. Yeah, I get it. Everybody gets that.
No, Mr. Butler, she is part of a non-represented group that gets increases every year based upon the increases of all the other full-time employees. She's had these increases all these years. She's never not had an increase. So you don't understand. You don't understand what you're doing.
One other commissioner would like to speak.
Well, that's fine. Mr. Jackson worked for me as my first deputy here in Clinton Township, so I'm very familiar with Eric.
Oh, thank you. Well, we're saying no matter how many times you said it got to 80,000, it is not equal now, and it's our charge to bring it for you.
Eric, you're wrong.
Don't interrupt. Let me finish.
Okay.
To bring it to you, and you can either vote it down or not. But it's our charge. If we did this for any other department and not bring it equal, we wouldn't be doing our job. So we're doing what civil service is supposed to do. We found out that it's not equal, so we're therefore bringing it forward to the board, and you can vote it up or down, but it'll be on you on why you won't.
Oh, I'll tell you why I won't.
Just briefly, since everybody else got to talk, you're correct. I think when you say that,
I know I'm correct, John.
Well, I know what I'm saying is that I think Lisa started off. I think Lisa started off at an exceptionally low rate for a quote-unquote department head. She's
not a department head.
She is the department head for the Civil Service Commission.
The only person that she's a clerical person in that
The
department.
level of disrespect you're showing not only them but one of our employees is outstanding.
John and I are friends.
Well,
I'm not disrespected. We're talking and we're trying to.
We're fine.
Yeah.
And the rest of us
Lisa has authority in the civil service capacity regarding 152 general employees, and she deals with roughly 65 classifications in civil service. She started out at a lower rate. She is college educated, and she built it up to 80,000 over the, as Bob said, over the 1 or 2% that everybody got across the board. You're right when you say that we believe that the fault is this commission's. The fault is this commission's because we have never come to this board and said, look, she is woefully underpaid. When you compare what her job skills are, and that's what civil service does. It's an interesting thing because she sets the scales and sets the points, and for every single classification in the township, she sets the points, and but if you were to set her points and her responsibilities and whatnot, we think she'd qualify for at least the salary of of an assistant department head, if not more. So if 107 sounds like it's too much, it is a huge jump, but it's only a huge jump because we as a commission have not been advocating like a union would advocate, not been advocating like someone would come to the Civil Service Commission and say, look, I need to be reclassified and I need to be repointed out because I'm working out of my classifications. That never happened for Lisa. And it's a lot of money. We're not asking for back pay. It's a lot of money, but it's a lot of money because we've never asked for it. Thank you.
She is one of 14 non-represented employees in the township. Every time the employees in that represented group get a raise, they have gotten a raise. She has been part of that entirely, all the way up. I know you don't understand how this is working because you're doing something different, but she got all those raises. And that's why she's at $80,000, which is a lot of money. Talk to the people in Clinton Township who make $80,000 and above, and they will tell you that that is a lot of money. Now you want to bring her up to $107,000, and I can tell you right now, I know what she does. I've been here a long time. She does a lot, almost all clerical work.
Insulting.
So
absolutely insulting.
I don't care what you think.
Yeah, that's fine. It's insulting.
Mr. Keys, you're on your way out with me.
That's right.
And that's good. You should be out, and I should be out because I'm old, and you're not right.
Mr. Cannon, Mr. Cannon.
So, I mean, let's just put it the way I feel.
Mr. Cannon, Mr. Cannon, could we hear what the others feel about this?
The others who?
The other board members.
What?
And take
you
it
can
to a
in a
vote.
minute, because nobody came to the board, nobody came to the Budget Ways and Means Committee and said, let's do an evaluation of her salary. Let's evaluate and have somebody evaluate what she's really doing. What I see her doing as supervisor is clerical work. I've seen that for 24 years plus. So let's have somebody who knows what they're doing evaluate it. You three don't know what she's doing. You really don't.
You know, we know more about what she's doing than you do. I'll tell you, I've been around a long time, and I know a lot of things about a lot of work and people. And I don't know what any of you do unless I sit down with you and work with you for a long period.
That's what I'm asking.
The rest of it
I'm asking
is all
for you to sit
figments of
down
your
and
imagination. Okay?
have somebody
They're figments of
evaluate.
your imagination. We're the ones that decided what her compensation should be, and we went through all the analysis that we believe was relevant, and that's what we decided.
Well, I'd like to see that analysis. We didn't see it.
Decide whether you want to fund it or
Why
not.
why didn't you?
That's hot air.
Wait, Mr. Butler.
That's hot air.
I've known you for a long time. Did you provide us with that information that you analyzed?
I don't need to provide you with it.
But you're asking us to give her a $50,000 raise?
You're saying asking us, and you're pointing to yourself.
No, I'm asking us.
There's the other us. Could we hear?
I don't get to make a decision by myself. You see me make a decision by myself?
And let others speak on it?
Oh, they will. I know that Lisa's already talked to at least some of the board members and got her votes already solidified. I know that.
My counseling ear says that you have a feeling for it, and it's not positive.
It's not positive. Eric, you didn't go through the right. You didn't go through the proper.
Let's move to let others respond.
Eric, let me respond to you. You didn't bring it to the proper group to evaluate. The Budget Ways and Means.
You have
did
it
not.
now.
Pardon me?
You have it now.
Oh, at a board
you
meeting?
can act
So
on it.
we can say anything we want now at an open meeting with all
you
these
keep
people
saying
present.
You're saying this. We haven't said anything yet.
Well, what do you mean? You just brought us a request for this huge raise.
We brought it to us, and you're the only one speaking so far.
So don't
Can
worry.
you let the others have a chance to chime in on this? And let's put it to a vote.
Mr. Jackson,
thank you.
I've known you for a long time.
Yeah.
Don't sweet talk, because that's what you're doing right now. You are bringing to us something we've never done before, asking for a raise for one person in the township. If we were to grant 10 cents tonight, we would have people lined up at the door every department head, every assistant department head, every firefighter, every police officer is going to say, we can just come to the board without going to the union or to the proper representatives and say, we want to raise, especially, and I'm going to say this again because it's true, just before an election. Just before an election. I will turn the floor over to Mrs. Meltzer, but I will be back.
Thank you, Supervisor Cannon. I think the insult here is I'm not against you gentlemen at all. You know, I think you are right to try to bring this forward. It's part of your description of what you should be doing, and it's within your purview to bring it here. I do think it should have come to Budget Ways and Means, so we could have like vetted certain things and seen the actual impact of our decision making and what the fallout might be. I think we should send it to Budget Ways and Means, not tomorrow's meeting, because we do have a Budget Ways and Means meeting, but the next one, and we can discuss it further. I will not support it, but I'll tell you where I'm really insulted is that the motion makers, Trustee Matuzak and Trustee Keys, voted no to give my deputy in a national election with a spotlight on her and myself, and did not even consider the mandated mandatory 12 days of work, the added extra work. As far as I understand, there's work that this position requires is actually less because we have less employees. I'm not saying that the work should not be, the payment shouldn't be addressed. I definitely think it should. I think that that may be the case. But we do, as Supervisor Cannon explained, the non-represented employees do get a bump along with, the pay as the unions get increases. So it is in line. She has gotten increases all along according to everybody else and all the other non-represented employees. So again, I think it should go to a committee, and I would like to make a motion for it to go to Budget Ways and Means, an amendment to the previous motion. And if I can get a second, I would appreciate that.
I second.
Roll call, please.
What are we voting on?
To go to Budget Ways and Means.
That this goes to Budget Ways and Means
not to kill it, but to talk
No,
about it, Budget
to
Ways
go to
and
Budget Ways
Means.
and Means.
Well,
Because
since we already
like
had a
Supervisor
motion, the motion
Cannon,
to amend, right?
it's just like Mr. Cannon had stated, we're going to have people lining up, at every meeting if this is how we're going to negotiate. I mean,
All I'm asking is, what am I voting on right now?
Yeah, we're going to
Ways and
send
Means.
this request to Budget Ways and Means, not
Which is
tomorrow.
So an amendment to the original motion.
Yeah.
Is that what you're
this is
saying?
another amendment.
Otherwise, we have two emotions.
This is
No,
a-
because
this is a
Mr.
separate
Keys
motion.
made a motion. so
Well,
we
you have to
make-
hold on for a second. As a parliamentarian, let me try to clear this up.
Thank you.
When you have a motion and it's been seconded, that motion gets considered unless there's actually a motion to amend that motion. Then you vote on the amendment to that motion. Following that, you can then vote on the motion.
Thank you.
If that is successful and amended, as amended, okay? Otherwise, you can't just replace a motion by making a second motion and requesting that go before the motion previously made.
It's an amendment to the one, I think, which is what I first said.
I have no problem discussing, but we didn't get to discuss. We've never done anything like this. I've been here 40 years. We've never brought something like this forward like this, ever.
You are correct. This is most unusual, but civil service is most unusual. Civil service is an island unto itself. Civil service.
No, you're not. We pay her salary.
We do. You pay our salaries, but we're statutorily created to run the Civil Service Commission specifically apart from the board because we're supposed to be fair and just.
I understand,
all
John.
those things. And that's why the statute says that the commissioners can recommend the salary, but the board has the power of the purse strings.
But we didn't discuss anything. This is the first time.
Bob, I know, but that's what I'm saying. It is unusual. I agree it's unusual, but it's unusual because of the nature of civil service.
No, it's the first time, John, in 40 years.
It is the first time in 40 years. You're right. We, as a commission, we've never brought this issue up.
And maybe we should have.
And definitely we should have.
It should go to Ways and Means to discuss so that it can be fully vetted. Mrs. Patton, you have the floor.
I just want to say, thank you guys. It's not you guys.
Gentlemen, we have a meeting still going on.
So, thank you. One of the reasons I would like to see this go to Budget Ways and Means, because we had something several months ago about chipping, and that was way more money, and we had to go to Budget Ways and Means to only come back to the board. So I would like to see this go to Budget Ways and Means simply because I see a personnel director salary, and I see other salaries used to show how much she should make. What I don't see is other personnel salaries from other townships being brought forward to say this is what they make. And I can tell you why. Shelby Township does not have a personnel director for civil service. Neither does Canton. Neither does Canton. So all the townships that I call that this act went into in 1965, they no longer have a civil service person, a personnel director. They have a civil service commission, but not a director. So you're not showing me apples to apples with this director over here is making this much money. When Mr. Gillingham brought up before about increasing their wages, he showed us what other townships were making in comparables to what we were making. I don't see a comparable for a personnel director here for civil service.
If you found one, what would you do?
I haven't found one, that's the problem. If you guys can find me several for townships that even ideally are over 50,000 people, because we're over 100,000 people,
Correct.
then again, that would be something I would think we would bring to Budget Ways and Means, discuss and say, now we have something to look at. Then I can actually make an educated, informed decision, but not basing it on Mrs. Bednar, and I know she's doing 2 jobs in one, or our deputy right here who, again, Mr. Gillingham, they turned it down to say she can't even get her wages that she worked for. I'm really confused at how you guys are saying we're gonna do this. And the state gave her wages in our general fund only to give to her because she worked those hours, and you guys said no. But all of a sudden this comes forward, and it's like.
Mrs. Patton, that's a different topic.
I know it's a different topic, but I'm just saying, if it's not germane at all. No, it's not.
We're stopping.
Are we punishing her because you have some issues with
punishing her
the
at all.
departments?
We're not punishing anybody.
I just want more information.
We would like to have more information. This is thrown at us by the 3 of you, or the 4 of you.
We do have a listing of other departments in Clinton Township.
We
the
have that.
directors
We have that, Eric. We know
they have
that. I don't even make $90,000 a year.
It's a choice.
No, but all your directors make
More than all of them.
You know, and then that's fine.
So what?
She's not a director.
And how many people in Clinton Township make $90,000 a year? That's why I never complain about it.
1, 2,
So now she's
3,
complaining
4,
about not
5,
making.
6. We have them. They're
Eric,
directors.
I know what that is.
They're your directors.
I've been here a long time.
Others
You guys,
are making it.
you are making a big mistake not bringing it properly through the channels. Bring it to the channels.
You decide what you want to do with it. You are the champion.
Mr. King?
No, you didn't give us
Nothing in our
information.
process say we
You
had
didn't
to
give
go
us
through
any
all that.
information.
Said we brought it to
That's
you.
a bad fault.
Mr. Keenan?
Mrs. Meltzer?
Just one other thing too, when we discussed this, one of the things, this was a ballot initiative and it was voted on by the people, so to create this position, so in 1970. So I think one of the things that we have to look at when we take this to Budget Ways and Means is this is this still a relevant thing? Let's look at what's happened since 1970, what the cost is associated with it. How does it compare to other communities within the state of Michigan? Do they offer the same service? Is it doing what it was intended to do by the ballot initiative? I think those are all questions that are fair to ask, and I think that would be part of it. And then to readjust based on that. If there is because we are looking at what other, other communities
So
are
is the
getting.
Ways and Means going to go from we didn't find anything to is it relevant and we don't need it anymore? So bringing it before you,
I don't
meaning
know.
that we abolish the
I don't know,
program,
because as I
which I don't
stated,
think
it's a
you can do by
ballot
law.
initiative. Yeah, it's a ballot initiative. Mr. Dolan, Mr. Cannon, through you to Mr. Dolan. Mr. Dolan, for a ballot initiative to be overturned, does it have to be done so by another ballot initiative?
There's a specific statute that we are operating under for general employee civil service. And you can't utilize what would be a ballot issue as a general ballot issue as a comparison. I didn't expect this issue tonight, so in terms of the process under that statute, if any, with regard to discontinuing the Civil Service Commission, I'm not able to answer that. And I'm assuming that's what you're now talking about is
Well,
we've now
I just
moved on
mentioned
to.
it. I just mentioned that. I
Pardon me?
wondered. I just mentioned that, and I wondered,
Yeah.
because there's a lot to consider here. So that was one thing. But so the amendment is to send this to the next, not tomorrow's Budget Ways and Means, but the following Budget Ways and Means.
That's
meeting, Which
correct.
is when, Paul? You're the chairperson. Do you recall?
Jackson.
To consider what? What are you going to consider?
Is it?
So the October meeting is taking place tomorrow, because it's always the first Tuesday of the month.
Except for next month.
Except
because-
next month is the
Election.
election,
Mhm.
which is the first Tuesday. And so it will be the first Thursday, which is our
I thought it was the
alternative
second
date for
Thursday.
Budget Ways and Means.
Second Thursday is this. Nope.
Excuse me, second Thursday,
Yeah,
yes.
so the second Thursday. Okay. November
It's
7th?
scheduled for November
No,
7th.
it would be,
Second Thursday.
here, I'll look.
So that would be the motion on the floor. You'll have the floor in a
Okay.
second. Thank you.
Foster. My calendar shows it's on.
Mr. Keys?
Thank you. Just speaking to the motion of going to Budget Ways and Means, I fully do support this recommendation. I'm going to be voting no on it going to Budget Ways and Means because I think we can vote on it here tonight. And I want to say, I'm speaking for myself here, obviously, but for myself. Watching the level of disrespect by Mr. Cannon and obviously this administration to a director level position, calling it clerical, and repeating it over and over just to try to demean someone, I can see is only a retaliation for whatever it is you're holding on to. And knowing that we have, outside of our police chief and Ms. Meltzer as an elected official, only 2 other women that are directors. This is the only woman of color who is a director. And this is the way we speak about her. We call her clerical. And it's not lost on me. It is absolutely not lost on me.
Well, that's good, because you are lost. We have many women in power here in Clinton Township who have great jobs. In fact, several of the top employees' salaries are with women. I have no issue with anybody getting the proper salary. Somehow, these 3, along with Lisa, brought it forward, and now it's way out of line. It is just way out of line. And if we were to grant it tonight without going through the vetting process, I think we would have multiple problems. It won't be my problem. It won't be your problem. It'll be the board's problem. It'll be the community's problem, because it's going to cost everybody money for people that may or may not deserve it. That's why it needs to be vetted properly, and it has not been. It was not brought forward properly. You haven't done it before, that's fine. So now I'm asking the board, and I'm gonna vote to send it to Ways and Means so that we can evaluate it and then bring it back again. It's not dead. You can come to Ways and Means, it's an open meeting, you can speak at Ways and Means and tell us why you think she should get $107,000 as opposed to what she's making now. And that's fine. If you think that, you should bring it forward.
We did.
Okay, roll call, please.
Hold on. We
We're
need to
voting on going to Ways and Means.
clean some things up, okay? We've started with the motion to approve, which is still on the table. A motion to amend with the idea of sending it to Budget Ways and Means was then presented, but that has not actually been well, actually, it was a motion.
And supported.
A motion was made and supported, but that motion actually was not to amend. I said to do it correctly, you do have to make it a motion to amend. Then we've also now added in as an additional component the specific date for the Budget Ways and Means meeting of the 14th of November.
November 7th.
No, November the 7th. I've got a great suggestion. If everybody could agree to withdraw their motions, if you want to restate a motion that everybody's ready to act on, that would be the better way to do it. Otherwise, we'll have to go through the amendment. The first thing will be the motion to amend the original motion, which was to deny.
No.
Yes.
Or,
I
excuse
can
me,
simple-
to approve, I'm sorry. to
Yeah, I can.
approve.
I'm
getting
not going to
confused
withdraw my
myself.
motion, Mr. Dolan.
Right, okay, so your motion to approve is still before the board. That can either be voted on, or the motion that was made and seconded, which was out of order, can be turned into a motion to amend. I think you initiated that motion.
I did,
Tim.
yeah, and Tammy Patton seconded that motion to amend.
Okay, so that's, you want that to be a motion to amend the original motion.
But, and set the date to, can we
November
just do
7th.
that? Yes, and set the date to November 7th for the Budget Ways and
Okay.
Means.
So we're going to vote on that motion to amend the original motion by Mr. Keys.
Okay.
Okay, we're good.
Mrs. Meltzer, roll call, please. This is on your
Clerk
motion.
Meltzer, yes. Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Trustee Keys?
No.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We will go,
Okay.
we will have an opportunity for you to present
We have
it.
to vote on the
gotta-
motion as amended.
That was just a motion to amend, right?
Correct.
Yeah, we're voting on the motion, now we're voting on the motion to actually move it to the 7th.
Mrs. Meltzer,
All right, so
to move the
I'll make that
date to
motion.
the
To
7th?
move it to the
support it.
7th.
No.
We have the Budget Ways and Means.
No, you
on
voted
Sunday.
on
Okay.
Michael's motion.
Surprising how many
This is
times you can
This
do
is the
this. Still be confused.
This is to set the date, Mrs.
We
Meltzer.
did this before.
To amend to November 7th?
No, it's the motion that, we just
Oh,
voted to
to-
amend the
okay.
motion. Well, now that it's been amended, we're voting on the amended motion.
Okay. All right, and that was, okay, so, let me find my notes here.
That's
Trustee-
Budget Ways and Means, November 7th.
No, Trustee Keys?
No.
No, that's not the.
No.
Or was it
No.
you, Matuzak?
No.
You made the motion.
You
made
and Tammy and
You
then,
and Tammy made the motion.
I just said that, and you guys
No,
just
no,
said, no,
it-
we're not doing that
Mrs.
one.
Meltzer, it's you and Mrs.
All right, Clerk Meltzer, yes.
You amended it.
Hang on.
That's, it's confusing.
No.
I
know, but-
I thought I had it, but then when I asked them, I thought they said no. So, all right, Trustee
Yes.
Patton. Trustee Matuzak.
yes.
Trustee Keys.
No.
Supervisor Cannon.
Yes.
Trustee Kress.
Yes.
Treasurer Gilliam.
Yes.
Motion
Thank you.
passes.
That will be an open meeting.
So, Mr. Cannon, if I may, I know this issue is done with, but if I could say, as the members of the Civil Service Commission, and as the chair of the Budget Ways and Means Committee, I'm considering you folks on the agenda to come and present this on behalf of the commission. So if you could place that date on your calendar, it's usually at 9:30,
December 7th?
No.
November 7th.
November 7th,
And,
And-
the meeting's held at what time?
9:30.
9:30.
Ooh, we're talking about
In the
getting
morning.
up in the morning and doing it.
9:30
Treasurer
in the
Gilliam.
morning. I know it might be, you might have to juggle your
And do all
calendars.
three of us have to be there? Or can
No,
anyone
Not
else?
all three of you have to be there, but
It's an
somebody should be
invitation.
there
Oh,
from the
From
commission,
the commission.
speaking on behalf of the commission with your presentation and proposal.
Okay.
Treasurer Gilliam, you might want to consider making a joint meeting so they can get a per diem for the, for the work that they're putting in. It's a joke, but also they're having to come to an additional meeting.
Well, they actually,
You guys are all want to pay
Okay.
everybody else, but not my dad.
All right. We're back to the meeting.
She's worth $1 million. That girl is amazing. I know.
Our
she's
first
amazing.
speaker this evening, and you
Thank
have
you.
3 minutes, is Flora Marie Guzmano. Alliance 21-7.
21-7. Hey,
As an aside.
Treasurer Gilliam
I'm
is
Flora
21-7.
Marie Cusumano. I
Good
live
evening.
at 17896 Point Court in Clinton Township. In lieu of all the disasters that happened this last weekend, I just wanted to ask a few questions, and that was if the Clinton Township is prepared for such things.
No, you're making your comments. This is like a public comment.
Oh, this is a okay, the first thing the first question was, because I've been reading and nobody's getting any information, I thought perhaps you could tell us how many illegal immigrants have come or are residing in Clinton Township
We would
as
have
of
no
today?
idea.
No idea. Okay. Is there any way we can find out?
I have no idea about that.
Okay. All right. Well,
Homeland Security investigation. Homeland Security, that's where you
What?
find out
We're not-
immigration.
I'm
I'm
trying to
it's
get
the
her
second
through
time it's
her.
come up. It's not, we are local. That's a federal question.
Yeah.
Homeland Security.
okay. All right. Well, thank you for telling me that because I didn't know. I mean, a lot of people have been asking around the country, and somebody presented that question today, and all the public people that answered couldn't give. They didn't
Homeland
know.
Security.
They couldn't find out. Okay. And then the other question was, if we are Clinton Township prepared for certain disasters, such as when that they had in East Palestine, the train with the chemical leak. We have a train track that runs from the south of Clinton Township right straight through Clinton Township, right to the very top that goes off to Port Huron. I don't know. I know that I did speak to Dan O'Leary about this months ago in regards to that particular situation. And he said that there is a plan in place between the fire, police, and the hospitals. They're covered, but certain things like chemical spills, he wasn't certain. And it was something else that I think I'm asking that if, there could be a plan in place. Also for all the flooding and rain, we do have the Clinton River, we have the canals. That could be a real problem if there's a lot of rain in our area. That can't be anticipated. 30 inches, actually, they even came up with 30 feet in Asheville, North Carolina, totally wiped out the town practically. And then there was other instances. I did mention once before, and you addressed it today, about the fights happening outside the high school. If those got out of control, is there a plan? And you addressed it tonight, so I'm glad about that. Tornadoes, and then possible civil unrest. And, just
Laura,
safe
you
to
will be
be.
contacted for by our emergency manager, Paul Brower.
I'm sorry.
You'll be contacted by our emergency
Okay, great.
manager.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next is Scott. I can't read your last name, Scott, but you're from Jackson, Michigan?
Correct. Dare I say the headquarters of Consumers Energy. Scott Ogney, 5503 Ann Arbor Road, Jackson, Michigan. It's actually Leone Township. We're a suburb of the Jackson Metroplex. I'm here this evening. I want to thank the board for the opportunity to speak before you. I'm here on an appeal to both the Clinton Township Police Department and the Clinton Township clerk. I am an election whistleblower. I've been investigating election records, election data, and election processes for almost 4 years. We are not investigating local clerks. We are investigating public officials in Lansing, and we have uncovered a substantial amount of evidence of crimes that have occurred. And I am here. I have also been one of the persons that have been implementing what's known as the locus standi investigations, and these were grassroots criminal investigations where we've turned evidence over to law enforcement and to prosecutors. And I wanted to read a series of laws that are the three primary laws of these investigations. MCL 750-248, which has to do with unauthorized alteration, destruction of public records. MCL 750.483A, which is unlawful concealing of evidence to be used in a current or future municipal proceeding. I got 2 minutes left. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were doing that. And MCL 168.932C, which is specific to election records, unlawful destruction and altering of election records. There are criminal and civil statutes that require law enforcement and public officers to properly take complaints with regards to these cases. MCL 168.941 is a civil, it's actually an election law that all peace officers from local law enforcement to the Sheriff's Department to the Michigan State Police to the FBI, are all supposed to take the complaints and process these properly. MCL 752.11, uphold and enforce the laws. That is a criminal statute that applies to officers and to public officers within the departments. 750.478, willful neglect of duty, and 750.505 is a felony. 1 minute left. 750.505 is misconduct in office by a public officer, and it has to do with misfeasance, malfeasance, and nonfeasance. I'm appealing. I'm here not to bust the chops of the township clerk or law enforcement. We know that what we have, the evidence on election records, many clerks are unaware of what is going on. I have evidence here from Alpena County that I'm going to submit to the township clerk of unlawful security violations, and it is rooted with the Michigan Bureau of Elections. We understand that law enforcement does not understand the election laws or the processes. That's why I am here, both on behalf of the people who have filed complaints and to be an aid to law enforcement. But the law says, ma'am, this needs to be properly put together. The 3 reports are on top of that thing right there. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Next is Sam Bichelle.
Yes, I'm here on, my public comments are, as you all know, the board members, I sent you all an email that basically you're in violation of the FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. And this is well documented because on each of my FOIAs, I've always sent you each a copy of the FOIA. And in my FOIA with Consumer Energy, which he was just talking about a little bit, the FOIA was put in. I waited until 6 working days after I had received anything from your FOIA officer. So I emailed all of you and I said, hey, you're in violation of the FOIA Act. This was almost a month ago. And to make a long story short, after that, all of a sudden, your FOIA officer had questions. He said he didn't understand the FOIA, which you all had a copy of the FOIA. It's very, very clear. It's been published all over the place. There was no questions about it. I immediately said, okay, what do you have a question? I said, I think it's clear. What do you have a question about? There was no answer, but another week went by, and all of a sudden it was, hey, you got to give us an estimate of how many hours you're going to be at the different departments. And I answered back right away. I said, how in the world would I be able to tell you how long I'm going to be when I don't know how many documents are going to be in those offices? So then we trailed off a lot longer, and I got a thing that actually accused me of, well, because I didn't give them an estimate, they came up with a dollar figure. And it's funny because it's a low. I didn't worry about the dollar figure because it's lower than I paid for other FOIAs in the past year. And there again, the clerk has records of me paying for much higher than that for FOIAs. It's a matter of you each. Now, I don't think a lot of people in the audience realize without you 7 people as a group voting to approve any employee, any appointee, any raises, any promotions, just as tonight we were talking about a raise for an officer. So this means you are very much aware, you're sworn to uphold the laws, and there's a whole bunch of other cases that I've documented, online and to you, where you're just not doing, you're literally violating the law, and you're not bothering to take actions to make sure your employees that you hire, Larry, none of them are here without all of you having a vote on them. And I think I would be very, very sorry if I was a person sworn to uphold these laws, up for re-election, up to getting promotions, and you knowingly are violating the law, violating the citizens. And it's on something where, as a retired engineer, what I can tell you, I've got what the original Consumer Energy that you approved about a little over 18 months ago. I got 5 seconds, but what they're building isn't what is on that plan, and I think that's what you're hiding. Thank you.
Nancy Smith.
Good evening. I live at 40416 Emerald Lane West. And before I start, I just want to let you know we have had communications. I'm with the Emerald Point Condo Association homeowners. And we have tried to take this through Mr. Dolan and Ms. Bernard. And as a last resort, I'm coming here. We have private roads that were developed in the early 1990s. They were never inspected, and they were never built to standard. They are built directly on the clay that was put there. There's an ordinance that we were referred to, 1248.8, that was passed in 1989, so it would have been in play when these roads were built. But they obviously were not inspected, or at least they let them pass with no pea gravel, nothing in it, no rebar, and they have been collapsing for years. We spend between $20,000 and $40,000 almost every year to replace what was put in poorly. We hire only very well-known, reputable companies, and we inspect their work constantly. We know what they're supposed to put in, they know what they're doing, but we're required to pay an inspection fee for your people to come out and inspect what these guys are doing. Let me tell you, we wouldn't let them do it wrong. We already know what happens when it's wrong. But the more money we have to pay for inspection fees, the less money we put into the roads. And because they are privately owned, the township has no responsibility, has no liability. If something happens on those roads, it comes to us as homeowners because they are our roads. 15 or so years ago, we asked to have those roads dedicated. They were turned down. So we are stuck to do what we have to do. And I know it may be written in this ordinance that if it's off the right-of-way, that resurfacing or pavement replacement installed out of the right-of-ways that are dedicated to Macomb County Department of Roads or Michigan have this inspection, but it just doesn't seem right. That if they were done right in the first place, we wouldn't be where we are, and yet now we're required to make these payments.
Thank you, Nancy. James Babcock?
Good evening. I'm Jim Babcock. I live at 40572. I'm also on the Board of Directors of the Emerald Point Condominium Association. My members are upset about having to pay a fee for inspection of the replacement of their own roads. The inspector was out on the site, referred us to part of your ordinance 124808, and that says in part, pavement replacement installed out of the right-of-way. Well, we are out of the right-of-way, that's fine. Then it goes on, that are dedicated to the Board of County Road Commission or the Macomb County or Michigan Department of Transportation. They're not dedicated. So I don't think that applies. At least, I don't think it applies, but at least it's ambiguous. I did contact Mr. Dolan regarding that, and he responded that says there's another part of the ordinance that applies, 1248.04B2, but I read through that. All of it deals with developer obligations. This is a homeowners association. We're not the developer there, and we are the owners of those roads, and it doesn't apply there, and so the people feel that it shouldn't apply to us. As I understand it, people replacing their driveway to their homes don't have to have them inspected. I don't believe it's required by the building code, and I don't think it's required otherwise. So why should we, who own these roads, are responsible for maintaining them, or responsible for liability on them, be required to have an inspector come out and sit in his truck while we have people put them in, which up to our standards, which is better than it was put in before. So I just wanted to let you know that we don't feel that's right, and we shouldn't be charged those permit fees.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Paul?
Right, here we go. Saving the best for last. Paul Shores, 3805.
Oh, no, we got more after you.
Huh?
We got more after you.
Oh, okay. Ultra mega precinct delegate from the Real Republican Party. I'm supporting the citizens of Clinton Township, and I'm sticking up for them, and I want to see you guys do the same. This is what's happening in Clinton Township. I want you to take a damn good look at it. I built a house there 24 years ago. Since then, Kroger's is gone. Been gone for 10 years. Look at it. Kmart's is gone 8 years. Look at that. Are you guys proud of that? You want to raise our taxes? Do you think anybody's coming back here? Why is it vacant for so long? Think about it. Raise our taxes some more. Nobody's coming back here. Look at the very bottom pictures. There's nobody there. That's 1 block south of 8 Mile. Is that coming to Clinton Township? Think about this. I want you guys to look at these pictures and look at the top ones. Our clerk is still handing out altered voting records. I want you guys to stand with the citizens and say no. No more handing out altered voting records. And I know Kim's going to stand with us. I know you're going to stand with us, Bob. You're going to go out a hero. You're going to save Clinton Township. You're going to save Macomb County. And I can see you being a hero saying, listen, we're not going to do this no more. We're going to give out the voting records that they're supposed to have. The jurisdiction number's supposed to be on there. All right? I don't want Clinton Township looking like the bottom 2 pictures. They're putting sidewalks there. There's no houses, no people, no civilization. 1 block south of 8 Mile. Now look at this stuff. I want you guys all to take a picture of it. Who voted to have the Guru factory put there? There was once a grocery store there. Save-A-Lot was there. Kroger's was there. Look at all the grocery stores are being gone. Look at the whole area. It looks bad, guys. You guys look bad. And you want to put double the amount of money in your pension funds? Look at what we got here. This is what the citizens got. You guys ain't looking too good right now, I'm telling you. And listen, I got 10 laws that have been broken. I'm going to give the sheriff the PDF files. I believe these were alleged laws broken. And she can look at them, and each of you guys look at these laws. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's the most important thing, the citizens coming here.
Margaret Smith.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Margaret Smith. I live at 21897 Wendell. I'm here tonight representing my family and my neighbors on Wendell. We have a huge traffic issue there. It is known as a cutover street. We can't even walk our dogs at night. We can't, I mean, now that's getting darker earlier. There's people going down our street at 50 miles an hour. If you make any kind of hand gestures like, hey, slow down, you get flipped off. It's ridiculous. So I'm here to let you know that I did start an online petition. I did learn during the break from the police chief. She said, hey, the road commission's gonna have to get involved in that. But I'm glad I'm here tonight to let you know I've already had 2,000 views and I think there's 60 people that signed it. Now, the people that looked at it might think, well, I don't live on Wendell, so I'm not gonna sign this thing. I don't know. But I'm here for support and maybe helping with the next steps that I should take, because my neighbors are all behind this whole thing 100% with me. And if I should do a handwritten petition, I would. I'll do whatever I need to do, because I love my house, I love my neighbors, we love our street. We have no sidewalks there, for those of you that know the block. Of course, no street lights. So it's just dangerous. And my next door neighbor just had a new baby. We've got new families around, and we just want to keep everybody safe. So that's the reason for me being here tonight. Wendell, we're 1 block west, I'm sorry, 1 block north of 16 Mile. It runs parallel, and the street is a cutover street like between Gratiot and Groesbeck. So I guess people save 10 seconds of their life by not going on Metro Parkway. I don't know, but yeah, and they just go by so fast. Yes. I had a whole lot more to say, but my time's probably up.
It's close.
Any
Go ahead.
questions or?
Well, thank you for coming. And for those who spoke tonight, I give all this information to the department heads where it applies, and we try to answer everything. We can't. Sometimes there's things that are said that we just can't answer because there's no answer, but we will try because you deserve an answer. The chief, I'm sure, will have a response. to what's going on here. And she will give you a phone number to call for the worst time, and I'm paraphrasing, the worst times, so they can get people out there during the worst times to try to slow it down. Because we don't want people hurt over there at all,
Right.
obviously.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you all very much.
Fred, I already did you. Did you, you can't do two. Oh, I'm sorry, Fred, I didn't do you yet. Go ahead. You were early in the agenda. You used up some of your time then.
I don't believe so. I think you're out of order.
You got 3 minutes.
Supervisor Cannon, Township Board, thank you for the opportunity to address you. I've been in Clinton Township for 40 years, 60 years in Macomb County. I've known this county as a bedroom community, family life, freedom to go anywhere you want on your bicycle if you're 15 years old. It was a cherished lifestyle that I loved. I don't want to see that change to the extent that we become an urban community. I want Clinton Township to remain family friendly. And that means the laws that we choose to enact, like licensing for marijuana distribution, affect the quality of life in the most provocative way. Supporting the life of children begins with supporting the life of families, intact mother and father type households that nurture and protect the children. The community is responsible. The moral suasion necessary to eliminate the type of social behavior that is accompanied with the use of drugs. Now, I know that there is problems with all kinds of adult use, but it translates to the children every time. I have personal experience with this in my life. I want everybody to understand the breakdown of the community begins with the breakdown of the order, the top of the line, the ordinances that allow for certain behaviors. When the families suffer because the adults cannot raise their children, they are intoxicated with different types of drugs. This breaks down the community, it breaks down the family structure, it breaks down the social safety net to the point where we have to have laws that allow school officials to become parents to children. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Eddie, could you pronounce that, please, for me?
Kabasinski, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eddie Kabasinski. I was asked this evening to speak about election integrity and election fraud. If the name sounds familiar, I was a Warren City Councilman for approximately 4 years. I got involved in the Warren City Council after the councilman in my district was involved in embezzling funds from the city of Warren. I'm not going to mention his name because what he did was wrong. I got involved after my service in the military and in law enforcement because I felt what he did to the people in the city was wrong and it was criminal, but he was going to be held accountable for what he did. So I decided to run, and I decided to take the salary that I was afforded and put that back into the community. I didn't keep 1 cent for myself. But when I did run for re-election, I can tell you I was a victim of election fraud and election integrity. Our city clerk did not follow the plenary rules that were provided within our city charter. Our election commission did not do the same. And because of that, election fraud and election integrity was in question. Every one of the candidates that was opposing me should have never been on the ballot. And I took this all the way up to the appellate court. Somebody that had no money whatsoever, no real legal acumen whatsoever, other than working with the JAG Corps in the military and learning what those attorneys had taught me while I was investigating and preparing cases for them. I stated my case before the appellate court, and they laughed me right out because I was a pro se litigant. Mr. Neestad was witness to that when I was at that court. So I will tell you, election fraud, election integrity does happen. I've been a victim of it. And I tell you, it's very painful and it's very expensive when you try to fight it. Now Proposal 2 is passed here in the state of Michigan, and we're not allowed to question our elections in any way, shape, or form. So I caution any candidate, and I caution those that vote. Monitor your ballot, monitor what's going on with the vote, because this is the most fundamental, important election in our lifetime. We either vote appropriately or we lose this 238-year experiment called a constitutional limited representative republic in this county and in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. Motion is in order to adjourn the meeting.
So moved. Support.
Supported by?
I support it.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Keys?
Yes.
Trustee Patton?
Yes.
Trustee Matuzak?
Yes.
Supervisor Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Kress?
Yes.
Treasurer Gillihan?
Yes.
Clerk Melton, yes. Motion passes.
Adjourned.